The Emperor of Work begins with Conan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301. Damn, times have really changed. On Saturday afternoon, Toyama Tobi got a car to take Xiaolin and Sonoko to the gathering place of the Magic Lovers chat group, a mountain villa. The offline meeting of the chat group lasted for 1 day and 1 night. The plan was that these magic lovers would arrive at the villa on Saturday night, have dinner together, and then have a party and perform a show. Sleep in the villa, and wait until Sunday afternoon for everyone to go home and see their mothers. This is the plan, but whether it can be implemented safely depends on whether the rice flower death god will give face. Obviously, Conan does not intend to give face to anyone today. Toyama Tobi looked at Conan in the backseat speechlessly and asked with a little disgust, "Speaking of Xiaolin, how worried is this kid about you, or me, that he would follow me desperately?" "That's right. With this kid following you, Xiaolin, how can you meet better boys?" Sonoko nodded continuously in the co-pilot seat. If Conan hadn't been there, she and Xiaolin would have been hugging each other in the back seat. But now Conan, the brat, has come. I don't know why Sonoko always feels that she and this brat don't get along very well, just like the mystery geek who hasn't been to school for a long time. I heard that this brat is the mystery geek's distant cousin. Although Sonoko is the CP leader of the Shinichi and ran CP party, it doesn't prevent her from disliking Kudo Shinichi as always. To be honest, Sonoko is the most sensitive person in the world, disliking Kudo Shinichi and Edagora Conan equally. It's just that she is too thick-skinned, so she didn't notice it. Facing the undisguised dislike of Toyama Tobi and Suzuki Sonoko, Conan could only twitch his lips and remain silent. Although he didn't say anything, he was actually cursing in his heart. In fact, Conan didn't want to come. Compared with Xiaolin and Sonoko's magic enthusiasts, he prefers to go with Maurika Goro to handle commissions. If the client or the client suddenly dies, Conan can also happily harvest a case that is still steaming. Isn't this much better than attending this ghost party? Besides, with Toyama Tobi following Conan, he can be completely assured of Xiaolin's safety ever since he found out that Toyama Tobi has a girlfriend. Conan has let down his guard against Toyama Tobi in terms of men and women. If I say Conan is still young, he doesn't understand the dangers between adults in society at all. He doesn't follow Maurika Goro to solve the commission and encounter the steaming murder case. Is it because he doesn't want to, or does he not like it? No, it's because Conan doesn't dare to let Xiaolin out of his sight now. This has nothing to do with whether Conan has a desire to control or not. It's true that once Xiaolin is left alone, the love strategist behind her will frequently kill, and Conan has become increasingly powerless in dealing with the moves of the love strategist. Conan even wanted to ask Toyama Tobi, "Boss, you promised to help me find out the love strategist behind Xiaolin. Why don't you keep your word?" Most people are very tolerant when faced with free services. The reason is simple. It's already free. What else can you ask for? This mentality is the same for Conan. You didn't pay Toyama Tobi. To put it bluntly, this guy is a freeloader. If a freeloader is picky, it would be a bit too undignified. In this way, Toyama Tobi and Sonoko disliked Conan as usual along the way, and Xiaolin smiled and tried to smooth things over in the back seat. For a while, it seemed that only Conan was injured among the 4 people in the car. The world where only Conan was injured has been achieved. According to the map, Toyama Tobi parked the car in the parking lot closest to the mountain villa. After walking a distance in the woods, everyone saw a suspension bridge connecting the 2 sides of the valley. The suspension bridge is still made of wood. Hiss, I have a question for Miss Sonoko. Toyama Tobi took a breath of cold air when he saw the wooden suspension bridge. Brother Yuanshin, you ask. I just want to know why you rich people have to choose to build villas in such deep mountains and old forests. Maybe it's because the mountains are far away from the hustle and bustle of the city, and the air will be better. If you come here occasionally to relax your body and mind, it's still a good place. Suzuki Sonoko answered seriously. Living in such a mountain, whether it is going out or purchasing supplies, it is quite inconvenient. Even when building a house, it takes a long detour to transport these building materials from the back of the mountain. This kind of place is really good to live occasionally. If you live here all the time, ordinary city people really can't stand it. This place is simply exclusive to the rich in Tokyo. Then a new question comes. Since the people who build villas and live here are all rich people, why do they have to choose wooden suspension bridges? Even if the safety of this thing is guaranteed, it is too easy to be destroyed. This is a question that Yuan Shenfei really wants to complain about. Let's say that we have spent so much money to build a villa in the mountains. Why can't we spend more on the suspension bridge? If we change it to a steel one and let the criminals chop it with an axe, it would probably take them so much effort that they would be exhausted to barely destroy the suspension bridge. This was even more the case when no one heard any unusual noises during the long process of destroying the suspension bridge, and no one noticed that a living person was missing from the villa. Suzuki Sanako's eyes flickered, and she said helplessly, maybe a wooden suspension bridge is more suitable for the villa in the mountains? Besides, if there are criminals who really want to destroy the suspension bridge, it doesn't seem to be difficult to buy explosives for ice flowers. You're right. Yuan Tobi and Sanako stood by the suspension bridge, putting pressure on others one by one. Xiaolin was really afraid to walk after hearing this. Well, do we still have to walk over this suspension bridge? Xiaolin was not afraid of heights, but after listening to Yuan Tobi and Sanako, she always had a premonition that she would fall down for various reasons if she walked on this suspension bridge. For example, a madman suddenly rushed out halfway through and cut the rope of the suspension bridge, or the suspension bridge was doused with gasoline and would be set on fire halfway through. The most exciting thing is that a bomb was placed on the suspension bridge, and when they were about to reach the other side, the bomb was suddenly detonated. As a native of Mecca, Xiaolin felt that these thoughts were in line with the local common sense of Mecca. In Mecca, this kind of thing is really not a low probability event. Of course we have to go. Yuan Shenfei and Yuan Zi looked at each other, and the pride of the successful prank flashed in both of their eyes. He also kindly explained to Xiaolin, you see, it snowed here recently, and the snow on the bridge is very natural, so what we are worried about will not happen, unless... Before Yuan Shenfei finished speaking, 2 gunshots suddenly rang out in the direction of the villa. Fuck. Are the murderers of Mecca so up to date? Chapter 302 Danger. Angels are being polluted. Tokyo is becoming more and more free due to some factors, which seems to be nothing new. Every resident in Tokyo has already realized this in places where guns are rampant. Although the Metropolitan Police Department always makes citizens believe in their ability to act when promoting, and believe that they will soon completely cut off the inflow of illegal guns. But people don't believe in empty words or bowing and apologies in this matter, but they believe in facts that can be put on the table. The fact is that as long as there is still one person in Bika Town who can buy a gun on the black market, the credibility of the Metropolitan Police Department will not be restored to its previous level. Although people seem to believe in detectives more in the past, at least they did not start to ignore the police like they do now. The biggest disappointment is not making a fuss, but the real chill is complete ignoring. The Metropolitan Police Department is now such an ignored role. As for street gunfights, Toyama Tobi has indeed seen a lot, and some gunfights were even instigated by him, fishing enforcement. But to be honest, in the original work, the characters gave up the original murder plan and used guns to kill people. Should I say that Toyama Tobi really encountered this? Isn't it your gorgeous magic trick? What about the murder method that I couldn't understand, even after reading the explanation? As the granddaughter of a magician, you actually abandoned magic and chose such a crude method of shooting with a gun. It is often said that you should not forget your original intention. Doing this is clearly forgetting your original intention. From a certain perspective, the sound of the murderer's gun was not much different from the sound of the starting gun in the stadium. Anyway, as soon as the gun sounded, Conan ran straight to the villa like a wild dog. Xiaolin followed Conan subconsciously, and only Toyama Tobi and Sanako looked at each other and followed the two helplessly. It should be said that Conan's running made the suspension bridge difficult to walk. Maolilan chased after Conan. This running back and forth made Xiaolin unconsciously think of the time when Kudo Shinichi was still there. It seems that she was the same when Shinichi was there. Every time she encountered an incident, she could only follow Shinichi and chase him non-stop. So, Xyadalen's eyes looking at Conan's back became deeper and deeper. Today is the day that Vermouth has been in Japan. She got some bad news from Rum. Because Spiritus lacks a certain talent and cannot become a famous detective, in order to improve his value, Spiritus planned a famous detective development plan. This task was given to Toyama Tobi by Rum at the beginning. Although there is no rigid completion target, Maori Kagoro is now so famous that Rum has heard about the news about the sleeping Kagoro, so the progress of this task is obviously quite good. When she heard Maori, Vermouth's heart trembled subconsciously. When she investigated, she found that this Maori was indeed that Maori. The famous detective who was promoted by Toyama Tobi is Xyadalen's father. This means that Toyama Tobi has taken advantage of her absence to get close to her angel. Vermouth stubbornly believes that there are no good people in this organization at all, let alone good people. Even normal people may not be able to find a few. Especially Spiritus, let alone. During these days, Vermouth investigated Spiritus in the organization. She was shocked to find that the rumors about Spiritus in the organization were a bit outrageous, and such an operation reminded her of Rum. Vermouth stripped away the useless, untrue, and repetitive information, leaving only the most true part of the rumor. This part cannot be said to be shocking, and Vermouth really didn't see that Toyama Tobi was a normal person. Toyama Tobi was a serious eye-opener for her. She didn't expect that the young Kada who went to the airport to pick her up was actually a mental patient! Wouldn't Xyadalen be in even more danger? Vermouth may be Conan's biological mother, but she automatically puts herself in the position of an old father in Xyadalen's place. Toyama Tobi is now the yellow-haired man who pushed the will-o'-the-wisp park downstairs of her house, took her woman home, and asked her, "Old dang, is it safe for me to park the will-o'-the-wisp downstairs of your house?" Vermouth didn't kill Toyama Tobi at his home on the spot, and directly strangled Toyama Tobi in the bedroom. It was considered that Vermouth had good key cultivation skills. As Vermouth's investigation deepened, she suddenly discovered a more terrifying situation. That was the little ghost who was staying at Xyadalen's house, the little ghost named Edagora Conan. The time when he appeared was too consistent with the time when Kudo Shinichi was killed by Jin, and it was almost a seamless transition from Kudo Shinichi to Conan. Vermouth disguised herself as a policeman and easily got all the files about Conan. In these files, Vermouth found some thought-provoking details. For example, according to Rum, when Maori Kagoro became famous at the beginning, it was all the cases provided to him by Toyama Tobi. Whether the murderer here was induced by Toyama Tobi or coerced, the organization always looked at the results instead of the process. But in Vermouth's view, it was not Toyama Tobi who was working behind these murders, but her good son Conan who was conscientiously doing reasoning. So the question is, did Toyama Tobi choose Maori Kagoro because of coincidence, or did he already know Conan's true identity? Vermouth did not expect that she would face such a difficult situation as soon as she returned to Japan. Just when she was about to test Toyama Tobi to a certain extent, she suddenly learned that Toyama Tobi had gone out with Conan and Xyadalen. She was in the United States before, so it would be fine if she didn't know about this. Now that she is in Japan, it is simply wrong to ignore it. After a disguise, Vermouth successfully followed Toyama Tobi and his group to the mountain villa. High-end business wars are often plain and simple, and so are high-end tracking. Because Toyama Tobi's car was taken from the organization, Vermouth installed a tracker on the car in advance. Whether it was Rum's attitude or the rumors within the organization, Vermouth did not dare to underestimate Toyama Tobi's ability. Ordinary driving tracking would definitely be discovered by Toyama Tobi. Switching to tracking with a tracker is safer for Vermouth. Even if it is discovered, it doesn't matter. No one knows that the tracker was placed by Vermouth. What's more, isn't it normal for the car in the organization to have one or two trackers? It's not a bomb, so it's not worth being surprised. Just when Vermouth was proud of her experience for a few minutes, 2 gunshots made her shudder. Gunshots, too. How could the number of gunshots be so coincidental? Vermouth was anxious because she suspected her neighbor of stealing the axe. She was afraid that Yuan Tobi had found a good place for Xiaolan and Conan. The mysterious man of the organization was no longer mysterious at this moment. He rushed to the villa with a disguised face. Chapter 303. Rice flower people are so decisive. What's going on? What was that gunshot just now? Conan's pace was very fast. He rushed into the villa before everyone in it could react. The door was kicked open by Xiaolan, and Conan shouted to the people in the villa. After Toyama Tobi followed Conan into the house, he noticed that everyone in the villa had an uneasy look on their faces. If this happened before guns began to proliferate in Tokyo, everyone might have rushed out to investigate the situation after hearing the gunshots. But this habit of life safety is formed very quickly. Now, when the people of Mecca hear gunshots, they don't go to watch the excitement, but look for a shelter to hide themselves. As the old saying goes, bullets don't have eyes, and bullets don't recognize people. If someone is deliberately murdered, you may have to accept your fate, but if you are accidentally injured or hit by a stray bullet, it is not ordinary bad luck. In this way, Conan once again got a body that had not been touched by anyone and was still steaming in the snow. Have you called the police? There were no detectives or police officers at the scene who could openly reveal their identities. After revealing his identity as a detective agent, Toyama Tobi became the backbone of the crowd. Eri Yoshinori, the owner of this villa, provided the venue for the chat group to meet and was also a participant in this offline meeting. After hearing Toyama Tobi's question, he immediately said, I happened to be near the landline when the gun went off. I have called the police, and they said that officers from the nearby police station will rush over first. Involving the shooting incident that the Metropolitan Police Department currently attaches the most importance to, investigators will definitely be drawn from the investigation division. But it takes some time to get from the Metropolitan Police Department to the Mountain Villa. During this time, we can't let the bare-handed citizens face the armed gangsters, right? So the Metropolitan Police Department will contact the police station closest to the Mountain Villa and ask them to send patrol officers to maintain order. The patrol officers are definitely not as well equipped as those of the main department, but their main role is to deter the gangsters to a certain extent. To put it bluntly, it is a gamble that the gangsters who fired the gun dare not kill the police openly. If you win the bet, when the well-equipped detective arrives, you can get a murderer who shot someone. If you lose the bet, the patrolman will be killed, which will trigger the rage of the Metropolitan Police Department and the violent boff of all police officers. This stuff will let the criminals know that no matter how powerful the detective is, he is just one person after all. But if the violent agency of the Metropolitan Police Department goes berserk, it will be a complete disaster for all criminals. Are all the people who came to the party here now? Toyama Tobi looked around and asked knowingly. Araki looked around carefully and looked embarrassed. Most of them are here, but Amano Toshiya, whose nickname is the disappearing bunny girl, and Doita Kiki, whose nickname is the red herring, are not here. Eri Yoshinori's words made everyone present look sad. 2 gunshots were heard, and 2 people did not appear. Most people would think that these 2 people were probably the victims this time. Mystery fans would think that one of the 2 people was the murderer and the 2 shots were fired just to cover up their tracks. People with more divergent thinking would speculate whether the 2 people conspired to kill the same person and both chose to flee. But Toyama Tobi would not think so much because he is the man who knows the truth. Just as Toyama Tobi was about to ignore Kuroba Kato's disguise as Doita Kiki and move on to the next item, a hurried footsteps sounded from upstairs. Kuroba Kato's disguise as a fat man hurried downstairs. Sorry I'm late. I was taking a shower when the shooting started, and I just couldn't come out right away, Kuroba Kato said to everyone awkwardly. Combined with his wet hair, this seemed very reasonable at first. Toyama Tobi subconsciously glanced at Suzuki Sonoko, and he found that at this moment, Suzuki Sonoko unexpectedly met the standards of a lady. She stood upright. Her figure was elegant, and most importantly, Sonoko was not speaking. She kept her mouth tightly shut, and her eyes did not look in the direction of Kuroba Kato, but occasionally a flash of shame and despair could be seen in her eyes. Of course, it was more of a fluke of escaping danger. Toyama Tobi knew what was going on with Sonoko. It was nothing more than the shame of finding out that the person she was dating online was a tank. This time it was okay. With Toyama Tobi around, Sanoko was not too embarrassed to show her love crazy side in the car. Her love crazy side was only known to her besties, and there was no need to make it known to everyone. Sanoko in the original novel was a social stunner. She told Zyadalan about her online love experience and had imagined what the man would look like. At the last moment, when she was about to witness a miracle, she really witnessed a miracle. This embarrassment was even greater than that of Zioni, who couldn't match the pattern on the Spring Festival Gala. Sanoko, my embarrassment is greater than yours. Now that everyone is here, for everyone's safety, I will search everyone. I will search the men and Zyadalan will search the women. Sanoko and Conan will stay here with those who have not been searched. Those who have been searched cannot leave everyone's sight, okay? Toyama Tobi made the decision without any thought of seeking the consent of others. After Toyama Tobi's decision was made, everyone in the villa nodded in agreement with a sense of relief. There is now a murderer among them who has just killed someone with a gun, and the others are afraid that the murderer will continue to carry a gun with him. In the past, the purpose of searching the crime scene was to find the real murderer. To put it bluntly, except for the deceased himself and the deceased's family, no one at the scene cared who the murderer was. But it is different now. This time the body searches for their own safety. In this way, naturally no one will speak out against it. You open your mouth now to refuse the body search. Does that mean that you have something to hide? From the time the gunshot to Conan rushing into the villa, and then to everyone gathering in the lobby of the villa, there was a long gap in between, which was enough for the murderer to hide the gun. So even the murderer himself is not afraid of Toyama Tobi's body search. Soon the other men in the villa were searched by Toyama Tobi, and he deliberately put Kuroba Kato last. Kuroba Kato walked into the room used for body search, closed the door and locked it. Toyama Tobi asked him, "Did you find it?" "I found it. Time was short, and she didn't hide it very well." Kuroba Kato looked gloomy and a little frustrated. Toyama Tobi's analysis made Kuroba Kato realize that the person who logged back into the account of the deceived boy really had no good intentions for this party. He thought he could stop Tanaka Kaku before she took action, but he didn't expect Tanaka Kaku to be so decisive. The first generation keyboard warrior Hamano Toshiha had just arrived at the villa not long ago, and he was decisively shot by Tanaka Kaku for the rest of his stinking time. The people of Bihar are really quick and decisive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 In the Dark Forest. Whoever shows his head first will be killed. As the second generation of Kato Kid, Kuroba Kato usually does the job of finding things. Tanaka Kaku is the granddaughter of a magician. In terms of magic skills, she is not as good as Kuroba Kato, and in terms of hiding things, she is no match for those who have been stolen by Kuroba Kato. If it weren't for Toyama Tobi and Kato Kid, Tanaka Kaku's straightforward killing method might have been easy to succeed. There are only so many people in the villa, and everyone was trembling with fear when the gun was fired. Even if the police were called immediately, it would take a long time to get here from the nearest police station. This time is enough for Tanaka Kaku to destroy the evidence that can clearly point to her 3 or 4 times. If the murderer cannot be found by then, it will only become one of the many unsolved cases in Bika Town. It's time, it's fate. After leaving the room with Kuroba Kato, Toyama Tobi looked at Zyadalan beside her. Zyadalan shook her head at Toyama Tobi, indicating that no weapons were found. In fact, when searching, Zyadalan was ready for battle. If the person being searched showed any abnormality, she would take the initiative. The gun was indeed fast and accurate within 7 steps, but the premise was that the woman in the house could draw the gun faster than Zyadalan could whip her legs. Zyadalan was at least one of the top combatants in Conan world, and a small pistol was not a threat to Zyadalan. Fortunately, she did not encounter such a tense situation. Okay, since no one has a weapon, let's go and see the unlucky guy who was shot. Yuan and Tobi had no intention of letting them out of sight. Although Yuanshin Tobi was a time traveler, he was not a Superman. He would die if he was shot by someone. Although Yuanshin Tobi had superimposed many human characteristics, it was inevitable that there would be omissions in the flesh. What if Tanaka Kiku felt that it was not enough to just kill the keyboard warrior this time, and wanted to kill him as a detective agent as well? At the moment, when there were no police and detectives in the villa, Yuanshin Tobi was doing the work of police and detectives. He even recalled his feelings when he was chasing Detective Conan in his previous life. If he was the murderer, he would have killed the detective as soon as possible when no one was around. Everyone is dead, so why are you still reasoning? Faced with Toyama Tobi's proposal, everyone followed suit for a while. Even if Toyama Tobi didn't say it, they would take the initiative to follow him. These people met each other for the first time, and it was difficult to establish a sufficiently reliable trust relationship in such a short time. It's interesting to say that a group of people have known each other for a longer time than Toyama Tobi, but they trust Toyama Tobi but not each other. People took the camera found by the villa owner and took a few photos of the scene on the snow. Toyama Tobi also played the role of a forensic officer. There is no way. It is foreseeable that with so many people coming to the snow, the scene will definitely be destroyed. To perform well, the photos of the scene must be kept. Toyama Tobi took the lead in walking towards the body, and after testing the pulse of the body, he shook his head skillfully. The deceased, the man Otoshi, was shot from behind, and both shots hit his back accurately. It's hard to say whether he could survive when he was shot, but it took so long that the bleeding alone was enough to cause him to die from excessive blood loss. On this point, Toyama Tobi believed that this was the consensus of everyone. Everyone knew that if they rushed to give first aid to Hamano Toshiya, as soon as the gunshot was heard, he might survive. But for their own safety, everyone chose to forget this situation. Selfishness is human nature. Just when Toyama Tobi personally announced Hamano Toshiya's death, the police sent by the police station closest to the mountain villa finally arrived. 4 police officers and 2 police cars came to the door of the villa through the back mountain one after another. Toyama Tobi did not come forward at this time, but asked the owner of the villa, Eri Yoshinori, to negotiate on his behalf. Just as Toyama Tobi was looking at the 4 police officers, he and a police officer who suddenly raised his head looked at each other. The 2 eyes touched and separated, as if everything was an accident. Then Toyama Tobi noticed the little trick that Kuroba Kato made on him in private. What's wrong? Toyama Tobi calmly sent an email to Kuroba Kato, who soon replied in the same way. The police officer who just stared at you, his face has traces of disguise? Kuroba Kato, can you tell how good he is? Toyama Tobi, the other party's level is very high, at least comparable to mine. The reason I can tell is that his disguise mask was made too hastily, and some small details were not adjusted in time. Kuroba Kato. Toyama Tobi didn't need to look up at the police officer again. It was not difficult for Toyama Tobi to remember everything he saw. The face that he just glimpsed was now firmly in his mind. To be honest, Toyama Tobi didn't find anything unreasonable about this face. The saying that every profession has its own specialty is not in vain. Without any analysis, Toyama Tobi immediately knew the true identity of the disguised police officer, Vermouth. In the Conan world, the number of people who have such exquisite disguise skills can be counted on one hand. Kuroba Toichi is the first generation user of the disguise technique that can be verified, followed by the second generation users Vermouth, Yukiko Kudo, and Kato Kuroba. Among them, Yukiko Kudo has been coaxed by Yusaku Kudo and returned to the United States. Before leaving, the 2 of them also said hello to Toyama Tobi. Kuroba Kato was right next to him, and the identity of the disguised police officer was obvious. The most important thing is that even Toyama Tobi didn't see the flaws in Vermouth's hasty disguise. What does this show? This shows that Vermouth's level of disguise is really high. But such a high level of disguise was discovered by Kato Kuroba at a glance. This not only shows that Kato Kuroba's level of disguise is high, but also shows that the 2 people's disguise techniques come from the same source. They are all taught by the same master, and any mistake will be infinitely magnified. Vermouth will appear next to Xiaolan, which does not surprise Toyama Tobi at all. but he was surprised that Vermouth actually showed up next to Ran and Conan so early. Vermouth has never been such an impatient person who could not wait to make the disguise mask perfect and rush here. That means that in Vermouth's mind, there is a big trouble next to Ran and Conan. Toyama Tobi looked around and finally saw a mirror. He looked at himself in the mirror and then smiled. Yes, for Vermouth, isn't the biggest trouble around Ran and Conan him, Spiritus? Toyama Tobi's eyes swept over Vermouth. Since he is here, he might as well feel the enthusiasm of Beaker Town. Chapter 305 Conan, you don't want Xyadalan to stare at you anymore, right? Bring the evidence here. Toyama Tobi. After receiving Toyama Tobi's email, Kuroba Kato cast a puzzled look at him, and Toyama Tobi responded with an affirmative look. Kuroba Kato didn't ask why, and quietly left when everyone's attention was not on him, and then quietly came back. The difference was that when he came back, he was holding a small package in his hand. Are they all in there? They are all in there. Hearing Kuroba Kato's affirmative answer, Toyama Tobi's eyes revealed a hint of sarcasm. This person, sometimes he really can't go against his nature. They clearly know that keeping the evidence with them is the worst thing to do, but they just hold on to the fluke mentality. What is this? Die with a clear understanding? Where there is contact, there will be traces. Grandpa Oka had told the world this truth a long time ago, but this group of murderers just likes to do this kind of self-righteous and superfluous things. Let's not talk about anything else. Just throw these clothes and pistols into the valley. Even if you are caught, it will take the police a long time to find them. Now, the clothes worn during the crime and the murder weapons used in the crime are all there, which is equivalent to giving the investigating police a perfect gift package. Toyama Tobi took the small package from Kuroba Kato and looked at Conan. Speaking of Conan, Toyama Tobi felt that Conan seemed unusually quiet today. It can't be said to be quiet, but he lacked the usual feeling of rushing forward without caring about the head when encountering a case. Something is wrong, very wrong. When has he ever seen Conan so quiet at the crime scene? Not to mention the last life, even the two lives combined, have never seen it. Then Toyama Tobi found Conan in the crowd, who seemed to be observing the police handling the case seriously, but in fact his two big eyes were rolling around, and his eyes were always glancing in the direction of Xyadalan. At this moment, Xyadalan also didn't say a word. She just stood in the corner, standing behind the crowd, and staring at Conan seriously. Got it. The case was solved. Conan was being targeted by Xyadalan again. As the saying goes, you will suffer the consequences if you do evil. Who made this little brat keep following me? Conan never thought that, although he has been staying by Xyadalan's side, he can always keep an eye on her movements. But does this greatly increase the chances of him being discovered? In the past, Toyama Tobi was eager for Conan's identity to be discovered. Even if he could get away with it in the end, he would at least be scared out of his wits. But now that Conan is officially used, he must not be allowed to continue to be stared at by Xyadalan. Xyadalan is now a time bomb for Conan, and Toyama Tobi is not a bomb disposal expert, and cannot and does not want to help him dismantle this bomb. But it is still possible to give Conan some time and delay the explosion of the bomb. Toyama Tobi sent an email to Kuroba Kato. Kuroba Kato looked at it, and although he did not quite understand what Toyama Tobi was going to do, his body was still very honest, and did what the email required. The world is made up of all kinds of people who like to have fun, but some are more fun and some are less fun. Just as the police began to investigate step by step, Kuroba Kato, disguised as Doita Kiki, suddenly came in front of Sonoko. You are the magician's apprentice in the chat group, right? I was right. You are a very cute girl. I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. With the panic of her secret being discovered, Sonoko was suddenly surprised. Ever since she met Doita Kiki, her dream of online love has completely failed. She also understood a truth, that before meeting the real person, being too longing for the other person can easily lead to a disaster called social death. Fortunately, she did not make any announcement about the online love. Unfortunately, a murder occurred in the villa where the party was held, and someone died. This college student named Doita Kiki did not seem to have the idea of recognizing her. Just when Suzuki Sonoko thought that this matter could be passed quietly without anyone knowing, her online love object Doita Kiki successfully found her. He even gave her a wave of sincere compliments. Such compliments did not bring any joy to Sonoko, but instead a feeling of embarrassment of having a bad secret exposed surrounded her. It's like a person who is excited to take his brothers to accompany him to meet in person, and then he suddenly finds out that the person he is meeting in person is not even his peers, but a tank aunt. Some wolf destroyers may grit their teeth and press F to enter the tank when they meet a tank of the same age. In life, there will always be some unsatisfactory experiences. But if he is not even a peer, then isn't he just doing volunteer work for others? Finding a rich woman and giving her a bundle of steel wool can at least gain wealth and patience. He is just letting people take him for free. Just when he found out that something was wrong and left with his friends, the person he was dating suddenly found him accurately in the vast crowd like Sherlock Holmes and came to him and prepared to recognize him enthusiastically. But his friends didn't know what kind of person he was dating at all. What kind of embarrassment is this? Especially after Doi Takashu spoke, everyone turned their eyes to Sonoko. This feeling of being watched made Sonoko feel like dying. Sonoko's aesthetics are quite unified. She has always liked handsome guys. Doi Takashu is not Sonoko's cup of tea in terms of figure and appearance. If Kato Kid looked like this, Sonoko would never be his fan. It just so happens that Doi Takashu seems to be a very talkative person. He finally met someone he could chat with online, and she was a girl. His talkativeness soared, and he just wanted to drag Sonoko to talk all night long. Finally, Xiaolan, as Sonoko's best friend, noticed her embarrassment. At this moment, Xiaolan was too busy to catch Conan's flaws, and had to rescue Sonoko first. Sonoko successfully drew Xiaolan's attention away. Toyama Tobi noticed that Conan secretly breathed a sigh of relief while standing there, so he walked behind him and whispered, "You seem to have suddenly relaxed." Someone suddenly spoke from behind, which made Conan shudder involuntarily, and then he saw Toyama Tobi standing behind him, looking at him with ill intentions. "Hey, Toyama, don't mess around. You should use honorifics when asking for help, kid." "Toyama, please don't do that." Conan's performance is exactly the same as the protagonists in many short movies, except that his gender is slightly different. Yuan Shinfei laughed twice and said, "That depends on your performance, this Japanese kid." Chapter 306 Murderer. I have an accomplice. Each mask of the Black Feather Stream disguise art is carefully made by its maker. Only by such meticulous craftsmanship can the purpose of being indistinguishable from the real thing be achieved. Therefore, the descendants of the Black Feather Stream disguise art are also quite pus in dealing with the mask. Not only Kuroba Kato and Kudo Yukiko, but even Vermouth is the same in dealing with the mask. The most essential point of the Black Feather Stream disguise art is the moment when its maker and user have deceived most people and finally tore off the mask. This is an art of destruction and an art of returning to nature. Unfortunately, today, Vermouth not only made the mask hastily, but she also did not intend to reveal her true identity in front of everyone. She is now an ordinary police officer at the police station near the mountain villa, and is one of the police officers who followed her predecessor to the shooting scene for support. Although Vermouth already knew that the dead at the scene were not any of the two people she was worried about, she decided to do something based on the principle of coming here. After all, she is now a police officer, so she will not easily miss such a good opportunity. Vermouth has always been a patient person, so she did not attack Toyama Tobi right away. It would be too obvious to target him, which is totally inconsistent with her current disguised identity. The police officer in her disguise and Toyama Tobi have never had any intersection. If she attacks and targets Toyama Tobi right away, people who are familiar with this disguised identity will doubt his purpose and identity. Besides, Spiritus is not stupid. Such obvious targeting may lead to a more fierce counterattack. Vermouth did not dare to overestimate Toyama Tobi's mental state. This guy's not a normal person. But there are less than 10 people in the villa. Following the investigation of the seniors in the police station, it will always be Toyama Tobi's turn. At that time, if he, a young and intuitive police officer, questioned Toyama Tobi with a serious and responsible attitude, wouldn't it be much more reasonable? From the beginning to the end, Vermouth never thought that a patrolman from a small local police station could cause trouble to Toyama Tobi. What she wanted to do was not to use this identity to cause trouble to Toyama Tobi, but to plant a seed of doubt in Conan's heart. She wanted Conan to secretly recognize the true face of Toyama Tobi. Once Conan had doubts about Toyama Tobi, he would naturally be wary of Toyama Tobi, so Vermouth would not have to worry about Conan and Xylan being tricked by Toyama Tobi. Toyama Tobi is such a big pollution source next to Angel, and Vermouth was afraid that Xylan would be turned into some strange shape by Toyama Tobi. As the magic enthusiasts who came to the villa to participate in the offline game talked to the police one by one, the time for Vermouth to take action was getting closer and closer. At this moment, a carefree and confident voice sounded in the hall of the villa. "Wait a minute, officers. I already know who the murderer of this incident is." Everyone turned their heads and found that Suzuki Sonoko, who was standing there in a deadlock, suddenly stood up, or not to say stood up. Suzuki Sonoko was sitting on a chair at this moment, with her head lowered at a mysterious angle, so that everyone could just not see her mouth. This posture is like sleeping Kagoro. Some knowledgeable mystery enthusiasts immediately recognized Suzuki Sonoko's posture. This strange reasoning method is exactly the exclusive reasoning posture of the famous Tokyo detective Maori Kagoro. The knowledgeable mystery enthusiasts were overjoyed to see this. They didn't expect to meet a fellow reasoning enthusiast here. I like reasoning and magic. This happiness is not something that can be described by 1 + 1 = 2. Several police officers in the police station looked at each other and then began to watch silently. As police officers in the Tokyo area, they have long been accustomed to the process of solving cases. In the process of solving cases, a detective suddenly appeared from nowhere, and after some reasoning, he successfully helped them solve the case. Moreover, the case itself should be investigated by the Metropolitan Police Department's criminal police, and their arrival now is nothing more than a forerunner. If a detective solves the case at this time, hey, wouldn't the credit just be attributed to them? It can be said that Japanese police and detectives have a certain tacit understanding. The detectives help the police solve cases for free, just for the sake of fame. The Japanese police have been criticized for years, and the name calling is probably gone. Too much debt is not a worry, too many lies are not itchy. Anyway, everyone has become a representative of incompetence in the mouth of the media, so why not use this fame to exchange for something that is beneficial to them? For example, the credit that can be obtained. Don't you see Medusa of the Metropolitan Police Department Investigation Division 1, who is obviously also from the non-professional group, but because of his good relationship with several famous detectives, he is now a police captain, or a police captain of a powerful department like the Investigation Division 1. It can be said that the police captain of a powerful department is the upper limit that these non-professional police officers can reach in their lifetime. Perhaps the top brass of the Metropolitan Police Department will promote Officer Medusa to a higher level when he is about to retire because of his hard work, but the position will definitely be a nominal one, or a retirement position. Such a good thing happened to them so suddenly today that for a moment, Toyama Tobi actually saw a hint of excitement in the eyes of the 3 police officers. The only one who was not excited was the young police officer disguised as Vermouth. She was looking at Suzuki Sonoko with a strange expression. How could Vermouth not know what was going on with this identical method of dominant reasoning? It was clearly Conan behind the scenes. But your mother tried so hard to pull you away from the pollution source, and this is how you mess with your mother? Suzuki Sonoko, who had fallen into a deep sleep, lived up to everyone's expectations. After some brilliant reasoning, Sonoko said the classic line, "There is only one truth, and the murderer is you, Miss Kikutanaka." "Ah, me. Do you have evidence, little sister?" "Of course, Conan," Sonoko called out, and Conan ran out from behind Sonoko and handed the package in his hand to the older patrolman. Then, while everyone's attention was not on him, he ran back behind Sonoko. "Any contact will leave traces. Miss Tanaka, I think you should know what's in this package." Sonoko didn't even need to say anything more. When Kikutanaka saw the murder weapon and the changed clothes in the package, she immediately entered the confession mode. The murder weapon and her clothes were found, so what else could she quibble about? Just as she was about to accuse the first generation keyboard warrior, Suzuki Sonoko started talking again. I was able to easily find this bag of evidence not because Miss Tanaka didn't have time to deal with it. It was because the person who was originally responsible for dealing with this evidence should not have been Miss Tanaka. She actually has an accomplice who came later and is still in this villa. Suzuki Sonoko or Conan's words were very firm, and such a certain judgment made Tanaka Kaku, who had just knelt down and was about to cry, fall into confused contemplation. Ah. Do I have an accomplice? Apostrophe. Chapter 307 Son Thief. Is this how you cheated your mother? Exclamation mark. That's right, it must be like this. Originally, Yuan's reasoning left everyone with a feeling of wanting more. This detective was obviously a novice, and the reasoning progress was too fast. How could a detective point out the murderer in just a few words, and then throw out the evidence directly? The correct rhythm shouldn't be that the detective first talks about the reasoning, first talks about the murderer's modus operandi, and then one of the suspects refutes it with cold sweat or sweating profusely. After the rebuttals are refuted one by the detective, the identity of the murderer is pointed out, and then after the murderer's harsh words, the evidence is finally produced. Today's wave can be said to be that before they have listened to it to their heart's content, the murderer has already knelt down and confessed. This sense of rhythm is too bad. Now everyone hears that the murderer has an accomplice. In other words, the reasoning will continue after a twist. No problem, there is nothing wrong now. Everyone in the villa suddenly realized that the reasoning speed was so fast this time not because the detective was inexperienced and would not interrupt the chapter to suspense people's appetite. It's because his reasoning is not over yet. As expected, I'm a fan of Marika Goro. This reasoning is well conceived and has a long way to go. There is only one person in the whole scene who seems to be wrong the more I listen to him, and that is Vermouth. Hey, why does Conan's reasoning sound more and more like he is targeting me? We are ready to fight to the death. Why did your majesty surrender first? Something is wrong. Let me listen again. Yes, Miss Tanaka's murder plan was very simple, but the less you do in a crime, the fewer mistakes you make. A sudden shooting like this, plus everyone was scattered at different angles in the villa at the time. Even if the police later found the location where the murderer fired the gun based on ballistics, they would not be able to find the corresponding witness. Miss Tanaka only needs to say that she was not in that room at the time. Her only flaws are the clothes she wore when she shot, and the murder weapon that she could not deal with because of the short time. Miss Tanaka chose this mountain villa to commit the crime, which is indeed a good crime scene. Because there will not be so many random witnesses here like in the city, but choosing this place to commit the crime also makes it difficult for her to deal with the murder weapon and evidence. Leaving the evidence in the room, once the detectives from the Metropolitan Police Department choose to thoroughly search the villa, these evidences will not be hidden at all. If you choose to abandon the evidence in the valley, it will cause some trouble for the detectives, but as long as you are willing to spend manpower and material resources, you can still find it. Then the best way is to find an accomplice, and this accomplice cannot be someone in the villa. The most important thing is that the identity of this accomplice should be able to obtain evidence and hide it, so that others will not suspect or investigate it. At this point, everyone in the villa has already heard the meaning of Suzuki Sonoko's reasoning, and they all looked at the several local police patrolmen who came later. The older patrolman was even more shocked. How could he be the one to eat the melon? This is clearly a rhythm of not getting any credit, but getting a piece of the bag. He thought to himself that he was obviously not an accomplice or accomplice of Tanaka, and he also knew something about the relationship network of other people in the police station. No one knows this Tanaka at all. How can this girl make such a blind inference? The reputation of the Tokyo police is already bad enough. Once the conspiracy between the police and the murderer is exposed, it will be a fatal blow to the police force. He hurriedly stood up to explain, I can guarantee that none of us knows Miss Tanaka. Besides, we are also aware of the risks of helping the murderer to deal with the murder weapon. I don't think Miss Tanaka can offer such a huge benefit. What if one of you is replaced? Good guy. Vermouth leaned back directly. This grandson really came for her mother? Exclamation mark. Unknowingly, the Metropolitan Police Department's criminal police led by Officer Sato also rushed to the scene. After they entered the scene, Sonoko was reasoning. Officer Sato and his team skillfully did not interrupt. Instead, while Sonoko was reasoning, they surrounded everyone in the villa. Among them, the 4 police officers from the police station were naturally in the encirclement. Yes, maybe everyone still doesn't believe it, but I think many people have heard of Kato Kid's disguise. There happened to be a person who was as good at disguise as Kato Kid at the scene. He also became Miss Tanaka's accomplice. That person is you, officer. Conan held up one of Suzuki Sonoko's hands and pointed at Vermouth. Vermouth, who was pointed out by Conan, laughed out loud. This son is a son after all. Although the reasoning is quite decent, how could she not know whether she is Tanaka's accomplice? Exclamation mark. She came here to give some advice to Conan and Xiaolan, but now, she was directly blamed by her own son. When Vermouth was in the United States, she envied Kudo Yukiko for being able to play with her own child without restraint. She originally wanted to come back and play Conan as a Leo Ganma. Now, before she started playing Conan, she was played by Conan first. Damn, did Kudo family's skill tree go wrong? At this moment, everyone's eyes were all focused on Vermouth, and even the colleagues who came to the villa with her took a step back. Vermouth sighed in her heart. The action against Toyama Tobi was aborted before it even started. It was a pity to give up this great opportunity, but Vermouth was not such an indecisive person. She knew that, no matter how she refuted at this time, it would be useless. With the disguise mask on her face, she could tell if she was a fake just by pulling it off. She looked deeply at Conan behind her in the direction of Sonoko, and then she let out a reserved laugh. The voice changing skill was activated, and it was the voice of Kato Kid. Miss Suzuki's reasoning is actually quite correct, but she is still a little conservative about my identity. That's right, I'm Kato Kid. Just as Vermouth was about to throw down a smoke bomb to escape in the chaos, a smoke bomb exploded in the villa. After a short period of smoke, Kuroba Kato stood on the handrail on the second floor and looked down. Mr. Accomplice, I have to express my objection to what you said. There is indeed Kato Kid in the villa, but you are definitely not it. Kuroba Kato's outfit is complete, with a white shirt, white pants, white cape, white top hat and monocle. At first glance, he is the real Kato Kid. On the other hand, Vermouth below, except for the voice, that is the same as Kato Kid, has no other outfits. So it seems obvious who is the real Kato Kid. Vermouth was also confused by the sudden appearance of Kato Kid. She focused all her attention on Toyama Tobi, and she didn't realize that there was also a disguiser hiding in the villa. Chapter 308 Meijio's Troubles. The Queen of Reasoning, Sonoko, died in the middle of her career. I can only say that sometimes Suzuki Sonoko does look more like the daughter of Maurika Goro, but sometimes she is different. If it were Maurika Goro, even if he encountered a wrong reasoning, he would just laugh it off. Let's just say, when Mauri was sober, was his reasoning accurate? The bright light detective can always bypass the correct murderer and choose the wrong suspect. In fact, if he can master the bright light of Maurika Goro, Inspector Meijio doesn't have to wait for Conan to tell the complete version of the reasoning. Let Maurika Goro choose a few first, and then directly arrest the remaining suspect for interrogation. Catch 10 times, at least 8 or 9 times can be correct. The accuracy rate is so terrifying. Speaking of this reasoning, it is similar to the multiple choice questions in school. If you can answer all the questions correctly on a test paper, and get them all right every time, you are either a top student or a god of learning, which is quite difficult. But he was able to answer all the questions every time, and he perfectly avoided all the correct answers every time, and he was able to answer 0 every time. This is not something that a simple student can summarize. This thing can be regarded as an alternative talent. Although Sonoko was socially dead, Conan was a blessing in disguise. Xiaolan was busy comforting Sonoko, who was ashamed to see people, and she couldn't take care of Conan for a while. Edagora Conan, a first grade student from Teton Elementary School in Bika Town, escaped by luck. As the incident came to an end, Toyama Tobi took Sato's car as usual and returned to the Metropolitan Police Department. Regarding Toyama Tobi's car riding behavior, the detectives from the Metropolitan Police Department, whether they were members of the Sato Miwako Defense League or not, had no objection. They all respected Toyama as a well-known man. It can be said that there are almost no people in the entire Metropolitan Police Department who can sit safely in the passenger seat of Sato. Takagi can only be considered half, because every time Takagi gets off Sato's car, he will get off with a shivering face. Even Shiratori sometimes wondered if Takagi was too harsh on him. Competing with such a person, did he really have such a big advantage? Speaking of which, even Takagi himself sometimes envied Toyama Tobi, so much so that his eyes turned green. This person's talent for riding a car was really enviable. Following Sato back to the Metropolitan Police Department, after the familiar recording process, Toyama Tobi strolled into their office with a coffee from the 1st Investigation Division. Recently, there have been many new people in the 1st Investigation Division, but because everyone was busy working overtime all day, Toyama Tobi didn't have time to get to know them well and keep in touch with them. TSK. I've been a little bit floating recently. Isn't this forgetting my original intention? The young ladies in Ginza, Tokyo are still waiting for the police officers of the Metropolitan Police Department to share their interesting work stories. How can they bow their heads to several cases all day? I've been slacking off. Just as Toyama Tobi was deeply reflecting on his forgetting his original intention, he suddenly noticed that Officer Meijio was sitting there with a frown in front of the desk belonging to the department head, worrying. He said that why the leader of the Investigation Division 1 today was not Inspector Meijio, so the brother is here to shut himself up today. I say, Inspector Meijio, what are you worried about? Toyama Tobi walked over to Inspector Meijio and asked him. The old man was about to write the word worry on his face. Oh, it's Toyama, you are involved in the incident again. Inspector Meijio raised his eyes and answered weakly. A mountain villa. Gunshots were heard inside before I arrived. By the way, you haven't told me what you are worried about here. Did the superiors give you another task to catch arms dealers? It's better to let me catch arms dealers. Inspector Meijio had a headache and pressed his head hard through his hat. With the help of Toyama Tobi, the industry insider, the Investigation Division 1 has recently arrested many black market arms dealers. Many dens used to hide arms have also been cleared. It stands to reason that Inspector Meijio's efficient working method should be praised. This is indeed the case. Meijio's work has indeed received a certain degree of praise, and then the leaders above have added some burdens to Meijio. So far, the police force has eliminated quite a few arms dealers, which are all achievements worthy of recognition. But there are many arms dealers, but there is no reduction in arms on the market. In line with the principle of more work for the capable, Officer Meijio was commissioned by the police superiors to reduce the number of guns on the streets of Tokyo. In theory, this task should be the responsibility of the police force's firearms countermeasures room, but the current situation is that the firearms countermeasures room, which is already small in size, is already too busy to spare any manpower to take charge of this task. The 1st Investigation Division is also the all-purpose department of the Metropolitan Police Department, and Meijio has done a very good job in catching arms dealers, so this task naturally fell on Meijio's head. It can be said that, if this task is completed, there will be benefits, but if it is not completed, there will be a punishment. The most fatal thing is that Meijio has no right to refuse at all. Police officers from non-professional groups are so passive in the police force. Hey, brother Yuanshin, what do you think I should do? Meijio was also very worried. Coincidentally, he had a younger brother by his side, so he asked for help in desperation. Toyama Tobi rubbed his chin and thought for a while. I say, Officer Meijio, you are probably worrying too much. Isn't it just right to give this task to you? Why do you say that? Look, brother, our investigation division has eliminated a lot of arms dealers in recent times, right? Doesn't this mean that the places where Bihua citizens can buy arms have been greatly reduced? Now we have controlled the influx of illegal arms. The next step is to arrest some criminals on the street who dare to pull out guns. We must let the citizens see our determination. It doesn't matter if you have a gun, but you can't use it. This way, it only takes a short time to see immediate results. Toyama Tobi lowered his voice and continued, after this stage of work is completed, report directly to the superiors. Officer Medjia, haven't you completed the task assigned by your superiors? What will happen next? Your successor will continue to worry about it. The reason why Toyama Tobi lowered his voice was because what he said was a method that only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. The proliferation of arms is like a Pandora's box that has been opened by someone. It cannot be closed easily. Even if the proliferation of firearms in Beaker Town can be blocked for a period of time, someone will definitely take up the market share once it is vacated. Toyama Tobi just wanted Medjia to buy some time and deal with the task from his superior. Toyama Tobi couldn't say such things to hot-blooded police officers like Sato and Takagi, but could only talk to an old-timer like Medjia. Medjia has been immersed in officialdom for many years, so he would not fail to think of it. It's just that the authorities are confused and have never thought about it in this direction. Officer Medjia really understood it at once. Brother Toyama, you mean? Chapter 309, Double Social Death. Sonoko. Kato Kid suddenly appeared in front of many policemen, which was tantamount to jumping in the face and using his ultimate power. The question is, how many times does Kato Kid jump in the face and use his ultimate power? When did Kato Kid's theft not take place in front of the police? Sometimes, Kato Kid even thought that the intensity was not strong enough and sent a warning letter to himself to add more weight. If a thief and Kato Kid were placed in front of the police, then they might consider temporarily letting the petty thief go and focusing on arresting Kato Kid. But if a robber stood with Kato Kid, they would have to think about whether to arrest Kato Kid or arrest the robber first. As we all know, Kato Kid does not use guns. Although Kato Kid's poker gun is also powerful, shooting poker and shooting bullets are completely different. In the current situation, one is the accomplice responsible for destroying evidence in the shooting case, and the other is Kato Kid, whose intentions are unknown. With the choice of either arresting the accomplice or arresting Kato Kid, the people in the Metropolitan Police Department quickly made a very wise choice. The detectives of the Investigation Division 1, led by Sato, drew their guns at the first moment. The Glocks made Vermouth dream back to the United States. After this period of severe tests, the way the detectives of the Investigation Division 1 handle cases has gradually approached that of their American counterparts. When in doubt, take out your gun first. The one who takes out the gun first will always have a greater advantage. This is the best response measure that the Investigation Division 1, or the entire Metropolitan Police Department, has tested with the blood of police officers. Vermouth, who wanted to put the blame on Kato Kid, but was embarrassed to meet the real owner here, did not hesitate. Smoke bombs, flash bombs, and stun bombs were thrown out very straightforwardly. At the first moment of Vermouth's action, Toyama Tobi realized that the situation was not good. This sister was going to fight for her life. The next one jumped through the window and flipped from the villa hall to the outside of the villa. He had no idea of taking flash bombs and stun bombs in a closed area. The room was in chaos, and in the chaos, Xiaolin was pulled out of the room. Xiaolin was not hurt by the flash bomb and stun bomb. Everyone in the villa hall staggered for a while. When Sato recovered slowly with his strong physical fitness and rushed out of the villa, he found that the gangster who had just disguised himself as a police officer had escaped. There was one less police car parked at the door. Although Sato did not think that the gangster would drive the police car back to the city openly, but she still contacted the Metropolitan Police Department and asked the department to set up a checkpoint on the road leading to the outside world in the mountainous area where the villa was located. This kind of checkpoint is basically no hindrance for a disguised person. It is impossible for the police to pull the face of every passerby to check whether they have disguised themselves. The most important thing is that they don't know the real identity of the gangster under the disguise mask, so there is no way to intercept him. Tanaka, who was confused by the sudden accomplice, was interrogated by Sato again. After a sincere confession, Tanaka finally explained that he had no accomplices at all. In fact, it is not explained clearly whether Tanaka has an accomplice or not needs further investigation. But from Tanaka's attitude, Sato can see that even if that person is really Tanaka's accomplice, she will not reveal the identity of that person at present. Since the identity of the criminal is unknown, Sato can only hope for unpredictable luck. Toyama Tobi is not optimistic about Sato's lucky plan. Apart from anything else, if the police are really lucky, how could they get to this situation now? If the luck of each person and each organization can have a clear quantitative value, Toyama Tobi guessed that the luck value of the Metropolitan Police Department and even the entire Japanese police force must be negative. There is only one stone of luck in the world, and Mao Lilin has one stone and two, and the Metropolitan Police Department owes 4 buckets. Toyama Tobi did not choose to chase after Vermouth, although he did watch Vermouth leave. There are too many detectives in the Metropolitan Police Department here, and Toyama Tobi can't take out the gun. Although Sato knew that Toyama Tobi must have illegal guns in his hands, there was nothing he could do about it. In the past, when the public security in Bika was still under control, Toyama Tobi could use a baton or a folding knife to protect himself. But now, although not all criminals are armed with guns, it is not difficult for criminals in Bika town to get a gun. As an informant of the Metropolitan Police Department, Toyama Tobi helped them destroy several black market arms dens, so it was normal for him to have a gun for self-defense. From Sato's point of view, Toyama Tobi is definitely one of his own. Since he is one of his own, he can't let the criminals have guns and let Toyama Tobi go into the wolf's den unarmed, right? That's unrealistic. Of course, this is also the common understanding of the police officers of the Metropolitan Police Department. It doesn't make sense to be so lenient to others but so strict to your own people. But it's one thing for everyone to know that illegal possession of guns is one thing, and it's another thing to arrogantly pull out a gun in front of uninformed citizens. Even if the police force gives face, Toyama Tobi has to take it himself. Anyway, the day when he and Vermouth will fight is still in the future, so Toyama Tobi is not in a hurry. The two of them must have had a fight. There is no tacit understanding of being good to each other in the organization. There is only fear and mutual fear. After Tanaka confessed his murder plan and motive, and made it clear that he had no accomplices, Conan realized that he was fooled by Toyama Tobi again this time. Toyama Tobi's way of fooling him this time was very clever, and it was a method specifically for smart people. The evidence found by Kato Kid and the flaws of the disguised police officer were all revealed to Conan by Toyama Tobi. But in the direction of reasoning, Toyama Tobi did not say anything. But these clues or evidence themselves are extremely directional, and Conan's reasoning angle is naturally wrong. It is not surprising to make a wrong reasoning. Conan is still feeling lucky at this moment, thanks to his reasoning as Suzuki Sonoko. Sonoko is not a serious detective, so it is understandable, even if there are a few problems in the reasoning. Suzuki Sonoko, who was sent to sleep like a baby by Conan's anesthetic injection, finally woke up, and as soon as she woke up, she received a shocking bad news. No, it should be 2. There is nothing wrong with her vision. This time, she accurately chose her idol, Prince Charming Kato Kid, as her online love partner. But unfortunately, she didn't see the handsome side of Kid at all, and just fell into a baby-like sleep. If the previous message just made Sonoko upset, then the next message directly put Sonoko into a second social death mode. She made some wonderful reasoning in her sleep, which not only helped the police find the real culprit of the incident, but also caught a disguised person with bad intentions. The only problem is that her reasoning had a little deviation, which caused this reasoning to collapse directly. Can a reasoning that is only half right be considered correct? The chapter number is marked incorrectly. I will ask the editor to change it tomorrow, but it will not delay reading, so don't worry. Chapter 310, Trees hidden in the forest. Trees bloom in the forest. Toyama Tobi nodded, but said something else. I didn't say anything. Officer Medjur understood, but didn't bring up the subject anymore. He looked relaxed now. Toyama Tobi's words came out of Toyama Tobi's mouth, and entered Officer Medjur's ears. No third person could know about it. If a ruler is not discreet, he will lose his ministers. If a minister is not discreet, he will lose his body. If things are not discreet, harm will be done. If Toyama Tobi's words were heard by others, who knows if it would reach the ears of the higher-ups in the Metropolitan Police Department. If Officer Medjur did this, he would definitely offend people. But is Officer Medjur afraid? He is obviously not afraid. He is just an ordinary police officer from a non-professional group, not even a semi-professional group. Being able to climb to the position of chief of the 1st Investigation Division is the end of his career. It can be said that Officer Mejiya is a standard template for most of the ordinary police officers in the entire police force who are responsible for working. Even if the higher-ups find out about Officer Mejiya's actions, what can they do to him? If he offends people, dismiss him? Not very realistic. Officer Mejiya did nothing wrong. The overall security of Tokyo and curbing the proliferation of guns in Tokyo are not his job. He is just a criminal policeman. He is responsible for solving cases and arresting people on weekdays. It is good enough to treat the symptoms. Let's talk about the transfer. Transfer Mejiya to the Kingshi Yamen within the police force. Let's not talk about Mejiya's boss. The boss's boss, whether the senior leaders of this faction will allow the police to mess around. Even if Mejiya leaves, who can take over the mess of the 1st Investigation Section? Shiratori. Shiratori is from the professional group. He can't stay in the grassroots of the police force for a few years. According to the police rank, Sato is also from the non-professional group. Because of the legacy of his father, Sato Masayoshi, he was basically promoted on the timeline of promotion. At the age of 22, he graduated from university and entered the prefectural police school. After completing his studies, he entered the Metropolitan Police Department as a patrol officer. 2 years later, he was successfully promoted to patrol chief, and 2 years later, he was promoted to police lieutenant. In principle, it takes at least 2 years to go from patrolman to patrol chief, and then from patrol chief to inspector general of the non-professional group. But in reality, it is rare for non-professional group members to be promoted within the minimum number of years. Otherwise, there would not be a patrol chief level between patrolman and patrol chief, which is a consolation and encouragement. Patrol chief is a consolation prize specially prepared for old police officers who have worked in patrol for many years, but have not been promoted to patrol chief. Sato was able to enter the 1st Investigation Division as soon as she graduated and was promoted on time because she had a father who died in the line of duty. But if Sato wants to be promoted from Inspector General to Inspector General, she needs to work in the position of Inspector General for at least 4 years. And once she is promoted to Inspector General, the legacy left by her father in the Metropolitan Police Department will be completely exhausted. If she wants to continue to be promoted, she will face the same embarrassing situation as other police officers from the non-professional group. In addition, Sato is a woman, and it is inherently more difficult for women in Japan to get promoted in the workplace than men. No matter whether Sato is the flower of the Metropolitan Police Department, it is useless, even if she is the treasurer of the Metropolitan Police Department. The positions in the police force are all occupied by one person, and no one can do anything if it involves their own interests. Of course, if Sato wants to continue her father's legacy, it is not impossible. Sato is only 28 years old now. According to relevant Japanese regulations, if she is under 29 years old, they can continue to take the National Comprehensive Examination, and after passing, they can study at the police university and become a professional group like Shiratori. If Sato becomes a professional group and solves the problem of her origin, then under the care of the entire Metropolitan Police Department, plus the legacy of her father, she still has a bright future. From this point of view, it is not safe to let Sato take over Mejiya's work. She may pass the national examination and go to the police university to study at some point. As for parachuting some police captains to the 1st Investigation Division to gild their resumes, let alone whether the 1st Investigation Division, a busy unit, is willing to have someone gild its resume. The position of the head of the 1st Investigation Division is not a good position for gilding. People who choose gilding positions are all noble positions. If you come to the 1st Investigation Division, you have to work like a cow or a horse. This place is a hot potato. Now Mejiya really fits the saying, as long as I don't want to be a deputy section chief, then I will be a deputy director. That's why Mejiya was awakened by Toyama Tobi's words. He just needs to deal with this difficult task and make the boss look good. As for the rest, what does it have to do with him, a small police inspector? When Toyama Tobi said goodbye and left, Mejiya sent Toyama Tobi all the way to the gate of the office area. He was no longer worried, and his enthusiasm was also aroused. After Toyama Tobi left the Metropolitan Police Department building, he carefully smacked the news that Officer Medio had just accidentally revealed. It is not only the first investigation division that targets black market arms dealers, but the entire Metropolitan Police Department has recently focused on this. Once the national violent institution of the police force is united and works together, the energy it bursts out cannot be underestimated. Although the arms group did not suffer much loss due to the care of Toyama Tobi, the losses of other arms dealers in the black market were heavy. Then the problem came. The black market arms industry had been hit so hard, but the number of guns flowing into Bihar town did not decrease at all. Not only did the number of shootings on the streets not decrease, but it increased day by day. Anyone with a discerning eye could see the problem. In the past, the arms group's trading point on the black market was a perfect hiding place. Most of the surrounding forests were cut down by the police force, and the hiding place suddenly became a tree in the forest. Toyama Tobi did not want to cause trouble for himself, and the arms group also needed to keep a low profile for a while recently. This was the unspoken understanding between the black and red sides. Since the top police officers needed stability on the streets of Tokyo, Toyama Tobi would give them the stability they wanted. But the market share was there, and the demand for firearms by Bihar people was also there. When the next wave of arms dealers grow up, it will also be the day for the arms group to open its doors again. Even if Yuan Shenfeng's arms group does not do business with individual customers during this period, it does not mean that there will be no income from the arms business. There are many arms dealers in Bihar, and not all of them have foreign channels to obtain goods. Most arms dealers still purchase goods from the organization, and then make some hard-earned money in the form of retail. This period of time is the default silent time for both the black and white worlds. The worst thing the arms group can do is not to do business with strangers. The sales channels accumulated before are strong enough to last for a long time. The organization can survive, but it does not mean that some small black market arms dealers can survive. Different sizes have different risk resistance capabilities. When someone in the black market can't help but be the first to come out, the arms group will start working, and they will not become the priority target anyway. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Izu Fried Fish Dungeon, Group Opening. The situation was just as Toyama Tobi had expected. As soon as the arms group cut off the flow of arms into Bihar, the public security in Bihar improved significantly. At the same time, Mejo led his men to focus on cracking down on criminals who illegally possessed arms, and the number of guns seen on the streets decreased rapidly. On the one hand, there was no continuous inflow of arms, and on the other hand, criminals with guns were gradually arrested. The remaining Bihar citizens began to be cautious, even if they had guns in their hands. At least they didn't need to be equipped with self-defense tools when they went to work. The action was so effective that Mejo also received great praise from the upper echelons of the police force. As expected, when the governance action was effective, Mejo, who was originally in charge of the action, was returned to his original job by the upper echelons. There were also police officers from other departments who were responsible for the follow-up work of the action. Mejo's work came to an end, and it was time for him to be rewarded according to his merits. Promotion is not realistic. It is basically impossible to cross the class barriers in Japan without a sufficient background. But in terms of welfare benefits and salary levels, Mejo and his detectives got what they deserved. It's not that no one can't see that Mejo's method of only treating the symptoms, but not the root cause, is not enough. There are not many fools who can climb to the top. But this thing is regarded as a game of passing the parcel. With the action of Inspector Mejo as the foundation, the bonus of treating the symptoms can still be enjoyed for a while. When the behavior of Mejo's private storage of arms begins to rebound, as long as the position of the person in charge is handed over to the scapegoat in time, the qualifications and credits that should be taken have been obtained, and the rest is for the scapegoat to bow and apologize. Here, Yuan Shenfei also made some misjudgments about the overall environment of the Mecha arms market. In this peaceful period, when people's minds are settled, as long as Mejo's successor is ruthless enough, the scale of the mecha arms market may be controlled. After a period of internal testing of the free country copy, I think the people of mecha don't want the security level that has been controlled with great difficulty to return to the level of gunfights every day. But who can say for sure about such things? This is not an ordinary place, this is mecha. Under the wise leadership of Officer Mejo, the detectives of the 1st Investigation Division finally had a long-awaited rest time. The bottom line of workers was broken step by step. Originally, everyone complained about the change from 2 days off to rest, but after endless overtime, rest time seemed to be getting better. Since the separation from the mountain villa, after many days of rest, Suzuki Sonoko has gradually recovered from the embarrassment of social death. Sonoko has always had her own unique way of decompressing, that is, looking at handsome guys. But the handsome guys on the internet are invisible after all, just like the girls on TikTok. No matter how beautiful they are, they can only be seen and thirsty. This is unacceptable for Sonoko, who yearns for a sweet love. But Kuroba Kato in the chat group also sounded the alarm for Sonoko. This time, Sonoko's online love was a blind cat that met a dead mouse, and she just happened to run into the hands of Kato Kid. But what about next time? What if the next online lover is really the type of Doita Kiki? Then, Sonoko can't just come here now. Sonoko prepared a plan of seeing is believing, seaside hunting. Toyama Tobi, who was busy building relationships with the detectives of the Investigation Division 1 who were on vacation, received Sonoko's invitation. According to Sonoko, she wanted to invite everyone to the beach to play. If you have friends, you can bring them along. The more lively the better. But after Toyama Tobi asked Xiaolan indirectly, she learned that Sonoko was determined to start a new round of fishing for rich men. She also conducted an in-depth analysis of her identity. In the past, Sonoko stayed in either her family's villa or a 5-star hotel. When she came to the beach, the probability of encountering a bomb that is beautiful on the outside but rotten on the inside is too high in such a place. So this time, Sonoko decided to give up her greatest advantage and put down her ability to pay to face human nature. She chose an ordinary hotel as the foothold for this team building activity. Of course, this event was paid for by Miss Sonoko in order to borrow everyone's peach blossom luck to find a good husband for herself. Toyama Tobi understands Sonoko's idea a little bit, but hasn't she thought that there are many rich scumbags, but aren't those without money also scumbags? Well, it can only be said that Sonoko is really good at stepping on the pit when it comes to men. However, when it comes to the combination of Aizu and the hotel, Toyama Tobi smiled sweetly. Kyagoku Makoto of the Kankansui school, didn't he appear in this incident? In the original work, Kyagoku Makoto appeared in this period, but in this world, Kyagoku Makoto personally gave special training to Takagi. In the past, when guns were not rampant, Takagi would go to Kyagoku Makoto's school to refresh his skills whenever he had free time. Thanks to this, Takagi's fighting level has also risen sharply, and he is also a well-known catcher within the investigation division. Toyama Tobi thought about it, called Sonoko first to ask if she minded bringing 2 more friends. After Sonoko readily agreed, he called Sato and Takagi separately. Sato, who was on vacation and was madly disliked and urged to get married by her mother, agreed to Toyama Tobi's invitation immediately. Now, let alone going to Aizu Beach, she would be willing to work overtime at the Metropolitan Police Department. It was really an unforgettable and terrifying experience to be urged to get married by the elders. After finalizing Sato, Toyama Tobi called Takagi. There was no need to say anything else. Just saying that Sato would go to the beach was enough to make Takagi's whole mind wander. Takagi's current progress was unlikely to associate the two of them with getting married and having children. The main reason was that the Metropolitan Police Department was too busy recently, so busy that Takagi had no other thoughts at all. But now he might be able to appreciate the appearance of Officer Sato in a swimsuit. Takagi couldn't help but eat 3 more bowls of rice at night when he thought of this. Beauty is a feast for the eyes. Beauty is a feast for the eyes. After finalizing Sato and Takagi's joining, Toyama Tobi thought about it again and then called Mizuno Rina. Faced with Toyama Tobi's invitation, Mizuno Rina also did not refuse. She had the idea of further contact with Toyama Tobi and deepen the relationship, so naturally she would not refuse Toyama Tobi's invitation. As for Toyama Tobi, since Vermouth has taken the lead, Toyama Tobi will naturally make some counterattacks. In order to maintain his image in the organization, the candidate for this counterattack must not be found from the organization. Toyama Tobi does not have enough authority to unlock Vermouth's information now, but if a force outside the organization, such as the FBI or the CIA, finds Vermouth, then she can only blame herself for not acting rigorously and being caught by someone. Of course, if Mizuno Rina wants to get Vermouth's information, she will have to bleed a lot. That's the boss's most beloved woman. Chapter 312. In order to say hello to you, I met a group of unrelated women. July 18th, the three groups met at the Koera Murakan in Aizu City, Shizuoka Prefecture. Although Sonoko did not deliberately book a 5-star hotel this time, the Koera Murakan is located in a quiet area with beautiful surroundings. From the cleanliness of the room, it can be seen that the owner of this hotel is taking good care of his business. It is no wonder that this hotel, which is not very large, is full. When checking in, Toyama Tobi and Takagi immediately saw their old acquaintance Kaigoki Makoto busy registering guests at the front desk. After making a gesture to chat later, everyone who got the keys to each room went to find their own rooms. It is worth mentioning that the arrangement of the rooms for several people is that Sonoko, Xiaolan and Conan live in a family room. It is not surprising that Sonoko and Xiaolan should share a bed. Because Toyama Tobi and Mizuno Rina are a couple on the surface, Sonoko only opened a room for them. This does not matter to Toyama Tobi. Everyone is a child of the organization and does not need to be bound by such details. Gossip Queen Sonoko could see that Officer Sato and Officer Takagi had a good relationship, and Officer Takagi seemed to want to develop it. But since she didn't know what Officer Sato was thinking, and if a group of people came out to play, it would be too desolate for Sonoko to be the only one single. Sonoko simply booked a single room for Sato and Takagi respectively. This trip was her Sonoko's hunting trip, and no one could take away the peach blossom luck from my Sonoko. The two gentlemen, Toyama Tobi and Takagi, were the first to settle down among all the people. They left the room and came to the entrance of the hotel. Kaigoku Makoto had just finished receiving this wave of guests. Long time no see, Kaigoku-san. Is this hotel opened by your family? Kaigoku Makoto brought 2 cans of drinks to Toyama and Takagi. As soon as he approached, Toyama Tobi and Kaigoku Makoto smiled and greeted him. Yes, this hotel is indeed opened by my family. I will come back to help every time it gets busy during the holidays. Kaigoku Makoto answered in a serious manner and looked at Toyama Tobi many times during the period. On the contrary, Takagi, who was more familiar with Kaigoku Makoto, was put into play after receiving a greeting from Kaigoku Makoto. This high school student from Heido had no intention of reminiscing with him. It was true that Takagi and Kaigoku Makoto could see each other every now and then before, but Takagi was a little busy during this period, so he reduced the number of times he went to Heido Middle School. The two of them really didn't need to reminisce. Kaigoku Makoto frequently cast a hesitant look at Toyama Tobi, thinking that for a high school student with his personality, it was still a bit embarrassing to ask about the situation of the person he liked. The considerate Toyama Tobi didn't let Kaigoku Makoto continue to be embarrassed. Kaigoku Makoto gave Takagi special training in the first place. He directly trained an arrest expert for the Metropolitan Police Department Investigation Division 1. If someone respects me 1 foot, I will respect him 10 feet. Toyama Tobi began to persuade Kaigoku Makoto step by step. Oh, by the way, I remember you heard of Xiaolan before. Do you still remember the girl with long hair who just passed by? Ah, long hair? Kaigoku blinked in a silly way. To be honest, because he saw Sonoko suddenly coming to the door, Kaigoku didn't dare to look up too much. He only knew that there were indeed a few girls in Toyama Tobi's team, but he didn't see what the other girls looked like. Kaigoku was a little dumbfounded. How should he respond to this sentence? In the dark, Kaigoku felt a skill from the Bihua death god. Nonsense. Yeah, yes, I do remember. As for Anne, I saw her at a karate competition. By the way, who was the girl walking next to Ran? Let alone Toyama Tobi. Even Takagi could see what was going on with Kagaku. The topic was too abruptly changed. And boy, how did you manage to make your wheat colored skin red like a monkey's, but without even seeing anyone? An honest man. This is an honest man. Such an honest man will be bullied in society. Perhaps Kagaku Makoto's parents had expected this, so they let their son practice karate early on. You can bully me as much as you want, unscrupulously, and without scruples, but when I'm ready to fight back, can you withstand my fist as big as a casserole? Hehehe. Toyama Tobi laughed like Voldemort. So that's how it is. It turns out that you, a boy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, have taken a fancy to Sonoko. I didn't. Surprise inspection. How many girls came with us? What color clothes did they wear except Sonoko? Well, I do like Sonoko. Kagaku Makoto's eyes were determined at this moment, as if he was going to join the party, and he was just short of swearing to Toyama Tobi and Takagi that he would be nice to Sonoko in the future. Hey, brother Kagaku, did you make a mistake? Since you have such determination, you should have said this to Sonoko yourself. Toyama Tobi showed a helpless expression. Officer Takagi is just a small policeman in the Metropolitan Police Department. He can only interact with Sonoko when a case occurs. As for me, I only have a better relationship with Xiaolan's father, and I don't meet Sonoko very often on weekdays. You really found the wrong person to show your loyalty. Toyama Tobi shook his head regretfully. Everyone has limited courage to do something at each time period. Don't look at how passionate Kagaku is at this moment, as if he wants to propose to Takagi and Toyama, but as soon as Sonoko comes down, brother Toyama, Officer Takagi, you two are so fast. The girls and elementary school students came down from the second floor of the hotel, and Sonoko greeted the newcomers with full energy. Toyama Tobi turned his head and saw that Kagaku had returned to the beginning when everyone first met, serious, and it didn't look like he was easy to deal with. It would be a waste if Kagaku Makoto doesn't go to Sichuan to learn how to change his face with such talent. Where is your ability just now? Toyama Tobi sighed softly. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Kagaku Makoto, the head karate master of Heido Junior High School. He is also responsible for the special training of Officer Takagi. These are Mori Ram from Teton High School, Mizuna Shirina from Nichimi TV, Officer Sato Miwako from the Metropolitan Police Department, and Ran's classmate Sonoko. Hello, please take care of me on this first meeting. Kagaku Makoto greeted everyone in an almost stereotyped way. Only Toyama Tobi knew that there was only one person Kagaku Makoto really wanted to say hello to, and that was Miss Sonoko. What's this? Just to say hello to you, I got to know a group of unrelated women. Chapter 313. Do you want to get something for free? From the perspective of Toyama Tobi, things seem to be like this, but from the perspective of Suzuki Sonoko, well, this is a very serious and polite friend of a friend. Sonoko also greeted Kagaku Makoto politely, and then began to look forward to her seeing is believing seaside hunting plan. To be honest, Kagaku Makoto is not Sonoko's cup of tea at all. Through the pit of scumbags that Sonoko had stepped on before, everyone can understand that Sonoko likes men who are eloquent and good at sweet talk to girls, strict body management, thin when dressed, and muscular when undressed. The standard of appearance cannot be lower, and it would be better if there are unique characteristics. For example, the calmness and restraint of uncles, the melancholy of literary men, and the romance of artistic men. Even if none of these meet the requirements, then having a pretty face that rich women like is also fine. The only thing is that they can't be ugly. If it were put in the present, the appearance of Japanese gigolos would definitely make Sonoko cry. What kind of monsters are these? As for Kagaku Makoto, he can't be said to be ugly, but he has a very manly look. To put it bluntly, he looks like a man. This kind of manly look was not popular with girls in high school, so Sonoko didn't have any feelings for Kagaku Makoto. The first effort was strong, the second was weak, and the third was exhausted. Kagaku Makoto had already lost his temper with Toyama Tobi and Takagi. Now facing Sonoko who had no interest in him, he had no courage to express his feelings. Not to mention his feelings, He didn't even dare to chat with Sonoko. Kyogoku Makoto was defeated on the spot. Seeing this, Toyama Tobi and Takagi looked at each other, and a hint of helplessness appeared in their eyes. They gave the opportunity, and Toyama was not a professional matchmaker, so he had to help both parties to reconcile. This kind of thing is nothing more than giving two friends a chance to get to know each other. As for how to develop next, they need to talk about it themselves. But Toyama Tobi was not in a hurry. Anyway, they would stay in Kyogoku Makoto's hotel for more than one day. There will be plenty of opportunities to get to know each other later, not to mention the murderer who specializes in hunting brown-haired girls. Toyama Tobi looked at his friends around him. There was no need to worry about Xiaolan and Sonoko. The two were not very professional in reasoning. They were professional in making that scream at the scene. As for Conan, before the case happened, it was as if there was a veil in front of his eyes. Even if he could see something wrong, it was mostly foggy. In a word, as long as the person is not dead, Conan will not come out of the mountain. There is no need to worry at all. Not to mention Rina Mizunashi, she has one identity as an organizational cadre and another identity as a CIA spy. Toyama Tobi believes that the personality of Rina Mizunashi in the Conan world is the most different from that in the original work. How was she portrayed as a CIA agent in the original work? Strictly speaking, Rina Mizunashi cannot be considered Japanese. She is a second-generation agent and was directly portrayed as an indecisive sane bitch in the original work. How outrageous is that? If Rina Mizunashi really behaved like in the original novel, she would have been killed by Jin long ago, not to mention continuing to be an undercover agent. What's the point of wanting to avoid innocent lives in the hands of such an organization? If she is really so compassionate, why would she still work for the CIA? Wouldn't it be better to return to the United States and be a police officer and shoot people on the street? The person who died was a person, and Rina Mizunashi was still a woman, so she just fought anyway, and it just happened to speed up the patch for the American version. Anyway, Rina Mizunashi in this world is very consistent with Toyama Tobi's consistent understanding of agents. It's not like they are messing around in their own home, so what is there to be afraid of? So Rina Mizunashi is more of a nonchalant attitude towards this serial killer. If there is a chance, maybe I can interview the mental journey of this serial killer and turn the suffering of the Japanese people into food for my own promotion and salary increase. In fact, people like Rina Mizunashi are not so bad. At least she is bad in public. You are on guard against her, and many times it is not that dangerous. But those bastards who are so mean in the name of their own people are even more hateful than Mizunashi Rina. At present, Toyama Tobi should pay the most attention to Sato and Takagi, both of whom are serious detectives. Sato's family background reasoning is also good, although not as good as Conan, but the level of this serial killer is not that high. In addition, Takagi is a detective who specializes in arrests. If the two of them are a team, it will be really bad if they target this serial killer. Toyama Tobi set his eyes on Conan. If he wants to make the serial killer stand up, he needs the help of Conan, the little kid. As for whether Conan is willing to risk his life to help Toyama Tobi guessed that Conan was willing. He just asked Conan in his heart, and then got Conan's tacit answer. What is tacit understanding? This is called silent tacit understanding. There will be a fireworks display near the beach tonight. After everyone arrived at the venue of the fireworks display, they dispersed on the spot. Xiaolan and Sonoko took Conan to visit some places that little girls like to visit. Sato and Takagi were fully immersed in their air vacation. As for Toyama Tobi and Mizunashi Rina, they were lingering in the snack street, picking and choosing. Toyama Tobi held a bunch of chocolate bananas in his left hand and a few skewers of grilled chicken in his right hand. The strange combination was considered a new experience. But at this time, Toyama Tobi would rather hold a beer in his left hand and a barbecue in his right hand. Grilled bird skewers are okay to eat once in a while, but they don't taste special if you eat too much. The most important thing is that they are not fragrant enough. Compared with Toyama Tobi, Mizuno Rina was much more reserved. She held a box of takoyaki and ate it one by one. After walking half a street, she finally spoke. I heard that Vermouth returned to Japan. Toyama Tobi looked at Mizuno Rina in surprise. Oh, I didn't expect you to be so well informed. Vermouth did return to Japan, and I was the one who went to pick her up at the airport. Then you also know Vermouth's identity? Obviously, how can I pick someone up if I don't know her identity? Then since the identity of the undercover has been exposed, Mizuno Rina has nothing to hide, and she directly wants to ask Toyama Tobi about Vermouth's identity. But before she can say anything, she is choked back by Toyama Tobi. Wait a minute, you are too familiar, aren't you? Do you understand what those names on my list mean? I understand, but it takes time to make fake identities of this level, not to mention that you need so many. In fact, fake identities are just a matter of words for the top executives of Langley, or the persons in charge of some key projects can easily handle it. But Rina Mizuno, she is in just an ordinary infiltration team, and it is even an infiltration team that relies on donations to get promoted. It will take some time to handle 5 high-level identities at once. Oh. So you plan to get it for free? That doesn't make sense, Miss Hondao. Chapter 314. How can it be considered freeloading if it is something we both agree on? Hondao. Rina Mizuno, she was shocked when she heard Toyama Tobi mention the last name Hondao. Hondao was her original last name. In the entire infiltration team, only the team leader Luca Weaver knew her identity. She was the daughter of Ethan Hondao and a second-generation CIA agent. How did Toyama Tobi know her identity? Exclamation mark. Why, surprised, Toyama Tobi didn't give Rina Mizuno a chance to calm down and continued to speak. Rina Mizuno, formerly known as Hondao Ike, is the daughter of CIA spy Ethan Hondao. 5 years ago, because the previous liaison was killed by the organization, the short-term liaison Hondao Ike joined the black organization under the alias Rina Mizuno and looked for an opportunity to get close to his father Ethan Hondao, who was also an undercover in the organization. 4 years ago, the organization discovered your hosting talent and arranged for you to be an announcer for Nichimi TV. 4 years ago, you encountered an accidental explosion during an interview shortly after your debut. After being seriously injured, you insisted on donating blood to other injured people, and since then you have become a well-known host and reporter. 4 years ago, you took the opportunity of Ethan Hondao to explore the transaction location and introduced the liaison Barney on the grounds of asking for leave, but you omitted the transmitter placed by the organization and exposed your identity. In order to protect his daughter, Ethan Hondao faked the illusion that you were tortured and seriously injured, committed suicide and kept your undercover identity. Toyama Tobi recounted a summary of intelligence about Mizuno Rina, tracing the timeline of 5 years ago. The level of detail of this intelligence left Mizuno Rina dumbfounded, and the more detailed the intelligence was, the more Mizuno Rina could identify the source of the intelligence leak. Hearing this, Mizuno Rina was even certain that this intelligence about herself must have been leaked from the CIA. Other intelligence, the intelligence after she joined the organization, might be inferred through intelligence analysis, but only her own people could know about Barney, her father's trusted liaison. When did their CIA become on the same level as their British counterparts? Why does it feel like Langley has suddenly become a big sieve? Leaks everywhere. Not only that, if you want to hear about the intelligence before you joined the organization, I can also tell you some. For example, you lived with your maid mother and younger brother in Tauto in your early years, while your father, a spy, worked in Osaka. For another example, when you were 17 years old, your younger brother Hondao Isuke was suffering from leukemia, so you implanted your own bone marrow to change his blood type from O to AB. Toyama Tobi bit off half of a chocolate banana and said vaguely, you see, sometimes it's so simple to obtain intelligence. After all, we will be partners in the future. It's reasonable to know more about our partners for our own safety, right? Reasonable. Of course it's reasonable. Mizuno Rina had a blank expression. As an undercover agent, she could fully understand Toyama Tobi's investigation of her behavior, because they were also investigating Toyama Tobi in private, but unfortunately the information they found was fake. The identity of Toyama Tobi was fake. An undocumented person who never appeared in various archives and never had any intersection with anyone, is a living ghost in modern society. Faced with such a ghost, how could Rina Mizuno possibly investigate the intelligence of Toyama Tobi? On the contrary, Toyama Tobi had already figured out her past. Rina Mizunoshi's mood became more and more complicated. If it was only the information leaked after she joined the CIA, she could still convince herself that the CIA, as an intelligence agency, had poor confidentiality and was following the British intelligence agency. But now Toyama Tobi has talked about the information when he was a child and even knew that he had a younger brother and his name was clear. Rina Mizunoshi couldn't continue to deceive herself. There was only one leaker she could lock on at this moment. The leader of the Hondo infiltration team, who was also the elder who watched her grow up since she was a child, and the guide for her to become a CIA spy, Luca Weaver. It was him. Why was it him? Exclamation mark. Rina Mizunoshi could never have thought that the person who betrayed her would be someone she regarded as a father, an old friend of her father for many years. Once the suspicion arises, the crime is established. Spies are suspicious by nature, not to mention Toyama Tobi's side, which is a case of evidence hitting her in the face. Even if Rina Mizuno didn't believe that Luca Weaver would betray her emotionally, she had to believe the evidence and facts in front of her. Even if Luca Weaver only betrayed herself, she would choose to forgive the uncle who watched her grow up. But Luca Weaver also betrayed his brother. The reason why Rina Mizuno left home without saying goodbye was to protect her brother. Her father had passed away, and she was going to embark on the road of a spy. It was impossible for all the family members to do such a head-losing job, right? But she was on guard, and Luca Weaver still dragged her brother in. Don't you want to ask where my information comes from? Toyama Tobi looked at Rina Mizuno, who was expressionless and out of tune with the cheerful atmosphere around her, and asked with a smile, who else could it be, except that old guy Luca Weaver? Rina Mizuno said self-deprecatingly, I want to know why he betrayed me. Well, is Rina Mizuno's boss called Luca Weaver? With the idea of trying his best, Toyama Tobi didn't expect to have an unexpected gain. He knew very well that at this time, facing Mizuno Rina in this state, he didn't need to be too urgent. As long as he guided her a little, Mizuno Rina would naturally play all the cards in her hand. This is another price. Keel. What do you want? It's not what I want, but what you can give now. Toyama Tobi meant something. Hearing this, Mizuno Rina smiled. As a woman, and a beautiful woman, it is obvious what her greatest weapon is. Speaking of which, when Mizuno Rina became a spy and came to the organization undercover, she thought there would be such a day. But she didn't expect that this day would come so late. And it's better to sell yourself for yourself than to sell yourself for that old bastard Luca Weaver, right? Looking at the gentle and elegant Toyama Tobi, who was full of the bookish spirit of a young scholar, Mizuno Rina had no resistance in her heart. Or, as an American who had received a Western education since childhood, it was hard to say who was taking advantage and who was at a disadvantage. It was nothing more than mutual help for each other. Let's go. It just so happens that everyone is at the fireworks festival. I don't want to go back and broadcast a live broadcast to everyone. As we all know, the sound insulation of the hotel is worse than that of a 5-star hotel. If Mizuno Rina came alone with Toyama Tobi, it wouldn't matter. But living in the same hotel, there are at least people they know. Mizuno Rina can't play such an open project for the time being. Well, she is a decisive woman. After muttering, Toyama Tobi followed Mizuno Rina and walked towards the hotel. Chapter 315. Convince? At some point, the weather on Izu Beach suddenly changed. The strong wind swept the dark clouds, bringing the moisture of summer to the dry land. The afterglow of spring seemed to have not yet passed, and the summer sea breeze had quietly arrived. In the salty and humid sea breeze, Toyama Tobi and Mizuno Rina exchanged their opinions cordially and reached a consensus on some differences. Negotiation itself is the art of compromise, and the emphasis is on you advancing and I retreating, and you retreating and I advancing. So can you answer my question now? Mizuno Rina suppressed the afterglow of the intense negotiation out of concern for her family and asked Toyama Tobi. Toyama Tobi has always been an honest and trustworthy person. He pays money and delivers goods at the same time and never plays tricks in this regard. Haven't you guessed who leaked the information to me? I asked why he betrayed me. Since my father passed away, I have regarded him as my elder in the CIA. How old are you this year? Toyama Tobi interrupted Mizuno Rina's complaints and asked an irrelevant question. 28 years old. 28. Just the same age as Officer Sato. Toyama Tobi asked again. Then let me ask you, how old is Luca Weaver this year? Mizuno Shirina thought for a while. About 55 to 60 years old? I don't know exactly how old he is. Okay, then even if Luca Weaver is only 55 years old, do you know what 55 years old means to a man? It means that he will be 60 years old in 5 years. Mizuno Shirina said nonsense. She is not a man. How can she know what 55 years old means to a man? Well said. Don't say it next time. But what you said is not wrong, because he will be 60 in 5 years. 60 years old has been recognized as old age internationally, which means that he is about to change from a middle-aged man to an old man. But what does this have to do with him betraying me? Of course it is related, and it is very related. He is now the leader of your infiltration team, but apart from this useless title of leader, he is just an ordinary field spy. He is almost 60 years old, has a wife and children, and has a family and a business in the United States. Can a person's experience at the age of 60 still support him to continue working in the field like a young man? Yuan Shenfei narrowed his eyes and persuaded him. He wants to go one step further, while he still has energy. To go one step further, he needs enough convincing merit. People go to high places, and water flows to low places. This is a very normal idea. He didn't have to betray you, but unfortunately your current situation seems to have returned to the original state, just like 4 years ago. How many 4 years do you think Luca Weaver has left in his life to waste? The thinking logic inherited from Ram, Kudo Yusaku, and Mariah TG quickly allowed Toyama Tobi to make a logical and seamless guess. And such a guess gave Mizuno Rina a reasonable explanation. The name of the Hondo infiltration group shows that the leader of the group should be Mizuno Rina's father at the beginning. If everything goes well, Mizuno Rina's father would not have gained nothing in 4 years. Even if they get some scraps of information from the organization, they can make a big fuss and then get promoted and a raise from field work to internal work. It's a pity that Mizuno Rina wasted a lot of time in the past 4 years of keeping to herself. Of course, if Mizuno Rina can get some heavy intelligence with the identity of Akada, it's not impossible to make up for it. If it goes well, it may be a blessing in disguise, but Mizuno Rina's undercover process is very unsuccessful. This will inevitably make Luca Weaver have some other little thoughts. Mizuno Rina thought so. Mizuno Rina, lying on the bed, sighed, but didn't know what to say for a while. Condemn Luca Weaver? What's the point of condemning him when the deed has already been done and the information has been leaked? What's next? Should she continue to pretend that she doesn't know, or should she find a way to get rid of Luca Weaver's control? But once she leaves the infiltration team, doesn't that mean that Rina Mizuno will really become a cadre of the organization, thus losing her most essential identity? Rina Mizuno had been thinking that one day, after avenging her father, she would be able to live in the sun as Hondo Ike. She was unwilling to become a rat in the gutter. Unwilling, right? You want to leave Luca Weaver's infiltration team, but you're unwilling to leave in disgrace, right? Toyama Tobi was very good at observing people's expressions. Seeing Rina Mizuno's expression, he almost guessed what she was thinking. Rina Mizuno did not deny it, but just nodded slightly. Toyama Tobi propped up his upper body and bewitched Mizuno Rina. Then why don't you try to form your own infiltration team? Or take back what your father lost with your own hands? What do you mean? My meaning is very clear. Toyama Tobi kept talking and continued. Luca Weaver can sell your information to me today, and he can sell it to others tomorrow. You know about this kind of thing. Once a hole is opened, it will never be closed. Even if you can leave the infiltration team, you will still face risks one after another in the future. What if one day he sells your information to someone in the organization? Mizuno Rina did not stop Toyama Tobi's actions. This was a reward that had been agreed upon. There was no need to be reluctant. If everyone was more open, the cooperation would be smoother. To put it more bluntly, now is not the time to have fun. Mizuno Rina is not incapable of intrigue with others, but now she needs someone to give her some pointers. Or she needs a devil's voice to bewitch her to depravity. As an undercover agent, being controlled by others is a terrible thing. If you want to avenge your father, then taking the initiative is the most important thing you need to do. What you need to do next is actually very simple. Make Luca Weaver's boss no longer trust him, and establish new connections with the top management of Langley. Let Luca Weaver make a mistake, and send all his people away, and then you need to make a significant contribution. In this way, you will replace Luca Weaver and there will not be many constraints in the mission. It is also good for me to take the position, and I will be able to get more bargaining chips. Hearing this, Mizuna Shirina didn't know whether she was emotionally agitated or unable to control her emotions. She turned over and looked down at him. Sputus, your plan is very complete, but given my current situation, do I want to make a contribution? Unless I tell Rum that you are a traitor. His driving skills didn't seem to be very good, so he was detained directly. What everyone saw was a modified version, and no one knew how those great gods drove their cars. Outrageous. Chapter 316. It hurts so much. Yuan Shanfei enjoyed the service of Gao Shan'ai Yushu and half closed his eyes. Why are you waiting for me here after all this trouble? Don't worry, I will provide you with the corresponding information when the time comes. You can regard this as his angel investment. After all, she is a well-trained agent. Mizuna Shirina's strength and angle are indeed beyond the reach of ordinary people. This turnaround can be said to be a great joy for both the host and the guests. When the two of them left the room again and appeared at the fireworks festival again, the fireworks festival was almost over. In fact, tourists left the venue one after another in advance during the conference, mainly because there were too many people when the conference ended. How to say this behavior, although it is very foresighted and wise, but you have to consider it so carefully when you go out to play. I always feel that I have lost some of the relaxation and unforgettable experiences that I should have. After the fireworks festival ended, the 7 people, 6 adults and 1 child, reunited at the place they had agreed to earlier. Today's fireworks are really beautiful. Yes, they are really spectacular. It seems that the Aizu government is willing to spend a lot of money this year. Come to think of it, they probably want to attract more tourists from Tokyo to travel here. Xiaolan, Sonoko and Officer Sato were discussing the fireworks display just now, and Conan and Takagi also agreed. Only Toyama Tobi and Mizuna Shirina looked at each other and showed the same "that's it" expression. But their eyes revealed the same clear confusion. What are they talking about? What will the fireworks of today's fireworks display look like? O_0. No matter what, Sonoko and the others enjoyed the spectacular fireworks display, and Toyama Tobi and the others also got enough training, and everyone has a bright future. Just as the group was walking towards the hotel, they happened to pass by a small forest. A tram passed behind them, and a short spark burst out between the tram collector and the wires, illuminating the surroundings for a moment. Toyama Tobi didn't turn around and looked at him inexplicably. Sonoko, your camera is not broken. Why did I feel the flash just now? Oh no? Sonoko subconsciously picked up the camera and tried to take a few pictures of the open space. It seems that it is not broken. I can still continue to take pictures, forget it. As long as I can continue to take pictures, I don't care about it for the time being. Sonoko exposed his careless side and didn't care about the camera in his hand at all. For Sonoko, the money of a camera is not important, as long as the camera can still be used and doesn't ruin everyone's fun. Others, including Conan, didn't think there was anything wrong with Toyama Tobi's words, just thinking that Toyama Tobi had just seen it wrong. But Mizuna Shirina glanced at the dark grove several times without saying a word. Her attention has always been on Toyama Tobi. Toyama Tobi just glanced at the grove before saying this to Sonoko. Is there anyone in the woods? Toyama and his group walked farther and farther away. After they left, a young man with a sinister face came out of the woods. Looking at the backs of the group leaving, he gritted his teeth fiercely. Finally, he turned his head to look at the grove behind him, then quickly left and walked in another direction. The next morning, a group of 7 people came to the beach of Aizu again. The sun, sea water, and sand here satisfy every tourist's yearning for the sea. Yuan Shanfei lazily lay under the parasol, and Gao stood in front of Sato, facing Sato's teasing of "do you want to help me apply sunscreen?" He was speechless. A person will only encounter a few opportunities in his life, and if you miss it, you miss it. There is no doubt that Gaomyu, who is very thin-skinned, has once again missed a big opportunity in his life. Seeing Gaomyu so useless, Yuanzi immediately took the sunscreen from Sato and applied it carefully to Sato in front of Gaomyu. Isn't this behavior an alternative face-to-face NTR? Anyway, Gaomyu came to Yuan Shenfei with a depressed will and drank soda one mouthful after another in depression. Yuan Tobi was speechless. It was obvious that this guy was still laughing at Kyagoku for not being brave enough in the hotel yesterday, but today he found out that the two of them were the same. How could they say that the two of them were destined to be master and apprentice? After applying sunscreen to each other, the girls went into the sea to play in the water. For Sonoko, her journey of hunting for beauties officially began. As Sonoko's actions progressed, Yuan Tobi and Takagi showed expressions that they couldn't bear to look directly at each other. A day of getting along has made everyone clear about Sonoko's purpose of coming to Izu Beach. She came here to find a man. But the current situation is that Sonoko is accompanied by 3 supersized beauties, Xyalan, Officer Sato, and Mizuna Shirina. The most important thing is that these 3 people have been exercising all year round, and their figures are impeccable, and each has their own temperament. Xyalan's upright youth, Sato's heroic spirit, and Mizuna Shirina's gentleness and intelligence can be said to have caught all the types that men like. Apart from anything else, this morning, Toyama Tobi and Takagi just watched the light in Sonoko's eyes brighten, then dim, then brighten again, then dim again, as if it was an endless cycle, one after another, never stopping. Sonoko, who was originally full of expectations, finally began to go the way of perversion under this inhumane suppression. The camera in her hand kept shooting at the 3 girls, especially when they were in a more embarrassing situation. Sonoko kept clicking and shooting. When Sonoko said that she was going to give the photos to Toyama, Takagi and Kudo respectively, the 3 girls gave completely different reactions. Sato looked dull and didn't understand what would happen if she showed the photos to Takagi, while Mizuna Shirina smiled gently and said that she would appreciate it with Toyama. In the end, it seemed that the only person who could make Sonoko tease was Xyalan, who blushed. The more sinister one is completely defeated by the sinister one, and the thick-skinned one can also defeat the sinister one. Sonoko's fighting power is limited to a battle with Xyalan, a simple girl. Having grasped the opponent's weakness, Sonoko took advantage of the victory and kept using the great detective to stimulate the blushing Xyalan. She didn't realize that if things really got out of hand, Xyalan would be the woman who could suppress her. Another one. Takagi noticed that another man on the beach was walking towards Sonoko and the others. Not surprisingly, this man should also want to chat up one of the 3 girls. The whole morning, Takagi witnessed Sonoko's eyes lighting up when she saw the man, and her fantasy was shattered, and her eyes dimmed after hearing about the people they were chatting up. He felt extremely sympathetic for this high school girl who really wanted to find a boyfriend. Miserable, too miserable. I didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who was more miserable than him. Takagi. Want to make a bet, Takagi? Bet on who this man is going to chat up. Seeing the man, Toyama Tobi grinned, then nudged Takagi, who was shaking his head and sighing, with his elbow. I'm really brain dead. I forgot the foreshadowing in the section about the national stadium. I was 1/3 of the way through this chapter when I suddenly remembered it, and my whole body went numb. Chapter 317. It is impossible for anyone to be interested in Yuan.jpg. The target of this man's flirting. Let's rule out Sonoko first. Takagi rested his chin on his hand and began his first deduction in Izu. Look at the direction he walked. Well, all 3 are possible, so we have to analyze it based on his age. He should be between 25 and 30 years old, definitely not over 30. From his appearance, he seems to be more experienced than his peers, so let's rule out Officer Sato for the time being. Well, he didn't seem to recognize Miss Mizuno, and he doesn't seem to be a fan of Miss Mizuno, which means his most likely target is Xyalan. I'm Xyalan. At this moment, Takagi was confident and said decisively, very good, then I'll bet on Sonoko. Let's wait for lunch, and the loser will treat us. How about that? Toyama Tobi said happily. Oh, Toyama, you don't have to take care of me like this. Takagi touched the back of his head embarrassedly. He thought that Toyama Tobi was treating his poor brother to dinner in disguise. In fact, Takagi's current salary level is not bad. The monthly salary of the patrol chief is between 200,000 and 390,000 yen. As the working hours increase, the monthly salary will gradually increase. At present Takagi's monthly salary should be between 250,000 and 260,000 yen, but with the miscellaneous subsidies of the investigation section 1, it will exceed 300,000 yen. After all, the detectives of the investigation section 1 are either working overtime or overtime all day long. There are already very few people who can be promoted. If the salary is not higher, who would be willing to work like a cow and a horse for the Metropolitan Police Department? For Takagi's 26-year-old age, his salary level is already very good among his peers. He doesn't need to buy a house for the time being. He has a police car to ride when he travels, so he doesn't need to buy a car for the time being. If it's just him, he will live a very comfortable life. But he still can't compare with the rich man Toyama Tobi. Let's see, what if this guy likes Sunoko's headband? Toyama Tobi said with a smile, and neither of them took the matter seriously. As Michiwaki Masahiko approached Sunoko step by step, the light in Sunoko's eyes dimmed before he could speak. In fact, she had experienced enough disillusionment this morning. Even if Sunoko was confident, she would not be confident in front of Zyalin and the other three. When Michiwaki Masahiko approached Sunoko, she heard Sunoko say to her weakly, "Okay, no matter which of the three you are here to chat up, I have to tell you that all three of them are already taken. Now you can start your performance." Most people would leave with courtesy and not disturb them after hearing such a rejection. Of course, there are some men who are more persistent. They firmly believe that sincerity can move mountains and open rocks. As for whether a girl has a boyfriend or not, it doesn't matter to them. As long as the person they are chatting up is confirmed to be a woman, it's fine. It even seems to be more exciting for some individuals. At this time, Zyalin needs to perform a one-handed stone crushing for everyone. The specific steps are as follows. 1. Find a relatively obvious stone on the beach. 2. Show it to the performance object. 3. Pinch hard. After this set of procedures, no one feels that their skull is harder than the rocks on the beach. No one feels that their skull is harder than Zyalin's fingers. This friendly and interesting performance also highlights the introversion and implicitness of these girls in a different way. In fact, the person I want to chat up is you, Miss Michiwaki Masahiko said, and everyone at the scene was shocked. Among them, Conan contributed a terrifying expression comparable to the one at the murder scene. It is impossible for anyone to be interested in Sunoko. JPG. Hey, Toyama, if there is nothing wrong with my eyes now, this man may be chatting up Sunoko? Yes, it looks like that. Great. Woohoo. The two grown men suddenly looked at each other inexplicably, and then cheered. They were celebrating that Sunoko broke her record of 0 chatting up this time. The cheers of Toyama Tobi and Takagi interrupted the sweet talk that Michiwaki Masahiko had prepared for Sunoko. His skills were inexplicably interrupted before they were released. He looked back at Toyama and Takagi, who were hugging each other. The two of them acted as if the team they supported the most finally won the championship. What on earth could make you two so happy? Could they be two fools? Mizuno, Rina and Sato showed awkward expressions at the same time. These two tactless men were really tactless. Sunoko smiled awkwardly and hated secretly. How could she not think of what these two boring men were cheering for? Isn't it just someone looking for me to chat up? What's the fuss about this? Exclamation mark. Then Sunoko was pushed over by the three people beside her. In an instant, she, who was high in attack and low in defense in terms of emotions, instantly turned into a fucking tomato. Sunoko, who stood abruptly in front of Michiwaki Masahiko, frequently cast a look of help to the three people behind her. Sisters, I usually brag to you. I really haven't experienced this kind of situation, and I can't handle it. Let's put it this way, what Sunoko wants to experience is a sweet love, not a sexy asterisk asterisk. This rare situation of being approached also made Sunoko feel confused. Should I just hold his hand, or hug his waist, or throw myself into his strong arms? These are all impossible. Sunoko's head is a mess at this moment. She is counting on her 3 good sisters to help her out. Fortunately, her good sisters are also very helpful. Seeing that Sonoko is so unpromising, they can only join in one by one. At the same time, meaningful little eyes are frequently shot at Sonoko. You are a green egg. What do you brag to us usually? Finally, with the help of the 3 people, the group went to a restaurant called Sea House near the beach for dinner. Coincidentally, the waiter in the restaurant was Kagagoki Makoto again. Don't you think there is something wrong with the man who approached Sonoko? The crowd divided into 2 tables. The gossiping girls, Sonoko and Michiwaki Masahiko, were at one table. Toyama Tobi, Takagi and Conan sat at another table. As soon as they sat down, Conan couldn't wait to ask Toyama Tobi and Takagi to correct his opinion. Why do you think so? Toyama Tobi smiled and induced Conan to say that famous saying. And Conan really lived up to everyone's expectations and said very seriously, it's impossible. It's impossible that someone would be interested in Sonoko. This man must have some unknown problems. Toyama Tobi stopped recording with satisfaction and changed the subject when Conan wasn't paying attention. Since you think he has a problem, why don't you ask Kagagoku? If that man really has a problem, he should notice it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318. Worry about others? You should worry about yourself. After Kagagoki Makoto ordered dinner for the girls, when it was their turn, Toyama Tobi and Takagi both chose their own food. Just when Conan was about to ask an inappropriate question, Toyama Tobi covered Conan's mouth. Toyama Tobi's action made Kagagoki Makoto break free from his unhappy mood and looked at them in confusion. Is this a popular interactive action? Is it the custom of Biko Town that people need to practice some skills that can be used when they grow up? Mr. Toyama, what are you doing? Kagagoki Makoto asked Toyama Tobi curiously. Nothing, just a small interaction. Kagagoku, you go and do your work first. Toyama Tobi replied with a smile and helped Conan order the same food as Takagi, as well as a glass of juice. After Kagagoki Makoto walked away, Conan weakly pulled Toyama Tobi's hand. Toyama looked down. Wow. Conan, the son of the world, almost suffocated himself. Huff, huff. After Toyama Tobi let go of his hand, Conan breathed greedily. Just now, Conan even thought that Toyama Tobi was going to take the opportunity to kill him. You were just going to ask me directly, right? How come you have no emotional intelligence at all? The store is busy now. If you ask me a question, will I answer you, or ignore you, and take care of others first? Toyama Tobi didn't give Conan a chance to speak at all. He said one sentence after another. You said I would pay attention to you, but the other people in the store are almost busy. Kagagoku is chatting with us alone. What will the other people in the store think of him after we leave? As for ignoring you, at least you came with me and Officer Takagi. For our sake, Kagagoku is embarrassed to ignore you. Conan, you can't affect other people's work just because of your curiosity. Takagi nodded repeatedly at Toyama Tobi's words. One of the teachings that Japanese people have received since childhood is not to cause trouble to others. Of course, this kind of education is fake, superficial, and limited to small matters. When it comes to real interests, whether it is troublesome or not, it is at most a matter of bowing with a thick face. But if this is said openly, it is absolutely politically correct. Conan stared at Toyama Tobi with resentment. I understand the reason. I just wanted to order something to eat. Why did you cover my mouth? Yeah, don't children have to experience more things they haven't experienced while they are young? Toyama Tobi's face was sincere, as if what he said was true. It was almost the same as Toyama Tobi expected. The time they came to the restaurant was off-peak. The meal was over, and the diners in the restaurant were gradually leaving. Kagagoki Makoto served the meal to Sonoko and the others, and after stabbing Michiwaki Masahiko, he returned to the kitchen and served the meal ordered by Toyama Tobi and the others. Toyama Tobi waved to Kagagoki Makoto, and Kagagoku also sat down at Toyama Tobi's table. At this time, in the entire restaurant, apart from the 2 tables of Toyama Tobi and his friends, there was only another middle-aged uncle drinking oolong tea alone at the table. Toyama Tobi and his friends sat at a square table. In order to make it easier to eat, the 3 chose seats that could see the direction of the next table. Once the remaining empty seat was sat down, it would be facing away from Sonoko and her friend's table. The position where Kyogoku Makoto chose to sit was also very interesting. He did not choose to sit in the empty seat at this table, but chose to sit in the same direction as Conan. This abnormal behavior made Conan feel a little strange. Could it be that there was someone that this high school student named Kyogoku liked at Sonoko's table? First of all, Sonoko was ruled out. Conan was always good at speaking his mind. He asked Kyogoku Makoto directly, "That Kyogoku brother, do you know the man sitting at that table? The one who chatted up with Sonoko?" Conan tried to use his logic to make Kyogoku Makoto realize the seriousness of the problem. This problem was indeed very serious. When Conan asked this question, Toyama Tobi even felt that the restaurant suddenly became 1 or 2 degrees colder. Kyogoku Makoto nodded. "I know that man. I've seen him chatting up girls on the beach these days." Kyogoku Makoto paused. Moreover, the girls he chatted up all had brown hair like Sonoko. Hearing this, both Conan and Takagi instinctively felt that something was wrong. Takagi thought for a moment and immediately asked, "What are the characteristics of those girls with brown hair he chatted up?" Characteristics? Kyogoku Makoto tilted his head in surprise. "Isn't brown hair their characteristic?" "No, I mean, in addition to brown hair, the girls he chatted up were all youthful types like Sonoko, or mature types, or gentle types." Kyogoku Makoto frowned and thought hard, and finally shook his head. "No, those girls seem to be of all types, and the only thing in common is probably brown hair. Why do I feel something is wrong the more I listen?" Toyama Tobi tapped the table lightly. Everyone was talking in a low voice, and Sonoko and the others at the next table were chatting loudly, just enough to cover the voices of Toyama Tobi and the others. "Why don't we ask Officer Sato to come over and ask?" Toyama Tobi's suggestion was strongly agreed by everyone at the table. "Miss Sato." Toyama Tobi waved to Sato, and then showed a gossipy expression. Seeing this, Sato smiled helplessly at the others at the table, and then walked towards Toyama Tobi's table with a speechless face. After Sato sat down with his back to Michiwaki Masahiko and the others, his face immediately changed, and he asked Toyama Tobi seriously, "What's wrong, Toyama? Is there an accident?" Toyama Tobi usually called Sato as Officer Sato, and now he suddenly called her Miss Sato, obviously not wanting others to know her identity. There were only 2 people in the restaurant, and the only one they knew, but were definitely not familiar with, was Michiwaki Masahiko. When Sato heard Toyama Tobi calling her, she immediately understood Toyama Tobi's idea, and even performed along with Toyama Tobi's words. When introducing herself at the table just now, Sato only said that she worked in Tokyo. This is the same as Rina Mizunashi. After all, the protagonist this time is Sonoko, so there is no need for them to say so much. Toyama Tobi gave Takagi a look, and Takagi immediately leaned close to Sato's ear and began to whisper. Kyogoku Makoto, who sits at the same table, is still serious. Sonoko sits with a man like that, and he can't laugh, even if he wants to. As for Conan, he is an old hand at being cute. Whenever he makes eye contact with Michiwaki Masahiko, Conan will show a sweet, harmless smile. As for Toyama Tobi, he sat next to him with a gossipy look on his face, as if they were really discussing some gossip. "I went to the gym today and did some strength training, and my hands are still shaking now. This body is too weak. Brothers, no matter how busy you are with work and study, you must take care of your body. Otherwise, it will be really painful to start exercising from scratch. However, I have lost 10 pounds since I started exercising, and the weight loss is faster in the early stage." Chapter 319 The Taste of Companions. "I'm going out to smoke a cigarette." Toyama Tobi secretly highlighted the poor quality of Michiwaki Masahiko, causing Michiwaki Masahiko next door to extinguish the cigarette in his hand awkwardly. Takagi followed with an expression of an old smoker. As for Sato, it seemed that she had not talked enough gossip, and she left with the 2 of them complaining. Conan played a child who was not easy to worry about, and followed them out in the end. Kyagoku Makoto, who was not so skilled in acting, stood up and followed the large group a little stiffly. Of course, Michiwaki Masahiko didn't care that Kyagoku Makoto left, and he was even relieved. Although a love-brained girl like Sonoko was blind, he was also afraid that Kyagoku Makoto would suddenly jump out and ruin his show. As long as he was not exposed in front of him, Michiwaki Masahiko had 100 ways to make a simple girl like Suzuki Sonoko obey. Haha, this kind of nymphomaniac little girl is the easiest to deal with. Coming to the shade of a tree far enough away from the restaurant, Toyama Tobi lit a cigarette. Sato also put away her acting skills. It does sound like something is not right about Michiwaki Masahiko. Sato's detective instinct made him feel that Michiwaki Masahiko was a very suspicious person. But no matter how suspicious he was, Sato didn't have any better solution for the time being. The police need evidence to arrest people, and even detectives need evidence to make inferences and accuse others. Otherwise, if there is no evidence to support the reasoning, the person under suspicion can sue the detective for defamation. You have nothing, and you have the nerve to say that I killed someone in front of a lot of people. Come on, man, I will sue you to the point of bankruptcy. Everyone was worried. Only Toyama Tobi and Conan had calm expressions. Conan's calmness was more of complacency, and his eyes seemed to say, "See, I said that there must be something wrong with men who like Sonoko." As for Toyama Tobi, what's there to worry about? Look, why don't we analyze the man's motives a little bit? Thanks to Sonoko's plan to hunt for beauties, it is unlikely that Michiwaki Masahiko came for money. In addition, Kyagoku said that Michiwaki Masahiko has been chatting up women with brown hair, so I don't think he knows Sonoko. For Sato and Takagi, it is important to rule out this possibility. Suzuki Sonoko is the second daughter of the Suzuki group. Whether it is a simple scam or a more radical kidnapping, they have to pay attention. Michiwaki Masahiko's own behavior minimizes this possibility, which means that he should have some obsession with the brown-haired girl. Let's not talk about what Michiwaki Masahiko will do because of this obsession. Let's talk about how to deal with it. Although Sonoko's personality is very carefree, she will not go out on a date with someone she just met. It is likely that Sonoko will still bring the girls. In this way, we only need to ensure that there is always someone with Sonoko, whether it is Officers Sato, Zyadalan, or Iina. In this way, even if Michiwaki Masahiko wants to do something bad, he won't find an opportunity, right? That's right, Toyama, you really have a way, Sato teased. Toyama Tobi's method is to let Michiwaki Masahiko reveal his flaws, and they will respond to changes with the same. Apart from anything else, don't look at Michiwaki Masahiko's abdominal muscles, which look like they have been trained. But if they really fight, whether it is Sato, Zyadalan, or Mizunashi Riina, beating him is really not much more difficult than beating a grandson. Hey, Takagi, what are you thinking about? Sato turned around and noticed that Takagi seemed to be thinking hard and asked curiously. It's the uncle who drinks oolong tea in the restaurant. I always feel like I've seen him somewhere. Do you know him? No, I'm sure I don't know him. It's the uncle who drinks oolong tea who looks like his seniors. Like his seniors? Sato was stunned. After graduating, Takagi joined the police force, first in the local police station, and then was transferred to the Metropolitan Police Department's Investigation Division. So the seniors he mentioned are police officers, no matter how you look at it. Toyama Tobi and Sato looked at each other, then find him and ask him, then ask. Please, Kyagoku-san. Sato made a decisive decision. The middle-aged uncle didn't look like he was on vacation. If he was really a policeman, he looked more like he was stalking. And maybe he was following Michiwaki Masahiko. If Michiwaki Masahiko was really being watched so closely by a policeman, then this guy must have had a very serious problem. Kyagoku Makoto nodded and walked quickly back to the restaurant. Toyama Tobi also sent a text message to Mizunashi Riina, asking her to be careful not to let Sonoko and Michiwaki Masahiko be alone together. Soon, the uncle came in front of everyone under the leadership of Kyagoku Makoto, and Sato and Takagi immediately revealed their identities. Hello, we are detectives from the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. May I ask who you are? I'm a detective from the Chiba Prefectural Police Department, Shoji Terabayashi. Seeing that his colleague Shoji Terabayashi was a little relaxed, he also revealed his identity. A detective from Chiba Prefecture. Takagi was a little surprised. Wasn't he a detective from Shizuoka Prefecture? Seeing everyone's confusion, Shoji Terabayashi explained to everyone, "It's like this. The man who approached your friend, Masahiko Michiwaki, is the suspect I'm tracking down. A serial murder case occurred in our jurisdiction, with 2 victims. After investigation, Masahiko Michiwaki is the most suspected. But there is no evidence, so there is no way to arrest him. I think Masahiko Michiwaki is likely to commit crimes again, so I have been following him all this time. May I ask what the hair color of the victim is?" "Yes, the same as your friend, a girl with brown hair." Shoji Terabayashi said this and couldn't help but grit his teeth. They are all girls in their youth, and they were killed because of misjudgment. This is also the main reason why Shoji Terabayashi, a Chiba Prefecture detective, is willing to cross the region to enforce the law and keep a close eye on Masahiko Michiwaki. If he is a serial killer, then the problem is serious. Sato immediately reacted. If Masahiko Michiwaki is a serial killer, then not only Sonoko, but also Xiaolan and Rina Mizunashi will be at risk of injury if they stay with him. Their original plan of keeping constant in the face of ever-changing circumstances did not include the possibility of murder, or at least it did in Toyama Tobi's opinion. However, as a policeman, Sato would not let ordinary citizens take this risk. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. I believe that, if this risk is told to Sonoko, she will understand. Just as Sato was about to turn around and go back to the restaurant, Kyagoki Makoto suddenly said, "I remember. That guy, Michiwaki Masahiko, I saw him having dinner with another girl at a nearby restaurant yesterday." Chapter 320 Conan's Unconventional Methods. Kyagoki Makoto's words immediately stopped Sato. Most serial killers would not commit crimes twice in a row in the same place when their minds were clear and they were not completely crazy. If he was not caught once, it was because he was lucky or the police had not yet investigated him. But if he committed crimes twice in a row, the probability of being discovered would rise sharply. Judging from Michiwaki Masahiko's words and deeds, he did not look like a criminal with a self-destructive plot at all. Then this guy was still eating with other girls yesterday, and today he came to chat with Sonoko. There must be some unknown purpose. Conan's conclusion about Sonoko seemed to be proved again. If you really want to dig deeper, it seems that Sonoko is not a suitable target, right? Toyama Tobi pointed out the flaws in Michiwaki Masahiko's behavior. If Michiwaki Masahiko is chatting with people to kill people, then Sonoko is not a good target anyway. Toyama Tobi's point of view was unanimously agreed by everyone. The reason is simple. Sonoko has too many friends around her. There are 3 girls who can accompany Sonoko all the time. In addition, there are strong men like Toyama Tobi and Takagi. No matter how confident Michiwaki Masahiko is in his own fighting power, he would not make things more difficult for himself. The most important thing is that with so many light bulbs around, it is very difficult for Michiwaki Masahiko to conquer Sonoko. Even if Sonoko is easy to fool, what about the others? It's fine for the 2 of them to sit here and chat, but if Michiwaki Masahiko wants to take it a step further, the resistance he will face is probably no greater than when Sonoko is at home. Everyone is happy to hear gossip, but for some further developments that are not suitable for children, they will still decline. There is one more thing. Since Michiwaki Masahiko has already captured a girl with brown hair yesterday, where is that girl? Did she leave Izu for some urgent matter and leave Michiwaki Masahiko here alone? Or did she find that Michiwaki Masahiko is suspicious and escape in time? Or has she been killed by Michiwaki Masahiko? One possibility after another was raised by Toyama Tobi. When he talked about the last possibility, everyone looked serious. Hey, I heard someone seems to have died over there. Is it true? This isn't a rice flour place. Can I lie to you? Really, the police from Shizuoka Prefecture are here. I heard that the person who died was a woman. So tragic. Let's go and have a look. Just as the atmosphere became tense, several tourists walked quickly past the crowd. Hearing their words, several people looked at each other subconsciously. Let's go and have a look too. Toyama Tobi didn't need to know the location of the dead person. Here they only needed to follow those tourists who were curious and in a hurry to accurately find the location of the body. When they arrived at the scene, there were already many tourists standing around the scene. The criminal police from Shizuoka Prefecture also set up a cordon and were investigating the case in the woods. This place. Conan looked left and right. Didn't we take this path when we returned to the hotel last night? Sato nodded. Yes, I remember that. Toyama, you mistook the electric sparks of the tram for the flash of the garden. Yes, that's right. It's here. Toyama Tobi nodded. When the few people approached the cordon, patrolmen in police uniforms came to stop them. Sato, Takagi, and Shoji Terabayashi of Chiba Prefecture revealed their identities and said they had clues to provide, which immediately attracted Yokomizo Sango, the person in charge of the crime scene. Yokomizo Sango's eyes lit up when he saw Toyama Tobi, and before he could speak, Toyama Tobi said in advance, "Detective Mori is not here, so it's just us this time." Is that so? Yokomizo Sango seemed a little regretful. He didn't experience the happiness of Tokyo Police Officer Meiji again. After a simple self-introduction, Sato immediately asked Yokomizo Sango, "Who is the deceased?" The deceased's name is Mizoguchi Tomoko, a college student who came to Aizu to travel during the holidays. Her hair color is its brown. Sato, Takagi, and Shoji Terabayashi looked at each other and saw a hint of solemnity in each other's eyes. Sato even stepped forward and whispered to Yokomizo Sango about Michiwaki Masahiko's situation. On the other hand, Conan, who had been thinking about something since arriving at the scene, immediately acted as if he had suddenly realized something when he heard that the deceased's hair color was brown. One clue after another was constantly connected in Conan's mind and finally turned into a perfect feast of reasoning. There is only one truth. And he already knows the truth of the matter. Brother Toyama, Brother Toyama. Toyama Tobi saw Conan constantly waving at him and walked over. What's the matter? I have deduced the truth of the incident. The murderer of this incident is Michiwaki Masahiko. At the same time, I also know why Michiwaki Masahiko came to Sinoko. So what do you want to do? Toyama Tobi knew that Conan must be looking for him not only for the truth of the incident. If Conan just wanted to deduce the truth of the incident, he could just shoot Sato or Takagi with an anesthetic needle. There was no need to call him over. Conan directly stated his current dilemma, although I deduced that Michiwaki Masahiko was the murderer, and I also knew his purpose of approaching Sinoko, but I have no evidence. The detectives in Chiba Prefecture also suspected that Michiwaki Masahiko was the murderer, but eventually released him due to insufficient evidence. Conan is now facing the same dilemma. Although his reasoning is logically sound, it cannot be used as evidence to prosecute Michiwaki Masahiko. Even if the police arrest him, he will be released soon. Just like what Michiwaki Masahiko experienced in Chiba Prefecture. You want me to help you find evidence of his murder? Toyama Tobi shook his head. Kid, you know, I have never been very good at this kind of thing. I know. Conan nodded, and then the two lenses reflected two white lights in the sun. Normally, there is no way to deal with Michiwaki Masahiko, the murderer. As the number of people he killed increases, his methods are constantly upgrading. If you want to find evidence of his murder, you need to use some unconventional methods. Conan's words made Toyama Tobi look sideways. Is this still the Conan who always talks about justice and law? Is this kid now able to face up to unconventional methods? Toyama Tobi is more curious at this moment. What exactly is the unconventional method that Conan mentioned? Tell me about your plan. I just looked at the time of death given by the Shizuoka Prefecture forensic personnel, and it's almost the same time we passed this path. Michiwaki Masahiko seems to have used the electric sparks from the train as a flashlight just like you did. Perhaps we can use Sinoko's camera to make some arrangements? Chapter 321, Little Ghost, remember to do things thoroughly. Conan is an old detective. The three tricks of the Bihua detective are to find evidence, reason and deceive the murderer. As the name implies, when there is no evidence of the murderer's crime, the detective will work with the police to set up a trap, to let the murderer reveal his tracks. Many murderers will be confused by the detective's tricks, make more mistakes, and take the initiative to hand over the evidence of the murder to the police. In games or competitions, the detective's behavior is not worth playing and is a rogue. But in crime, no matter what method is used, it is understandable, as long as the real murderer can be brought to justice. The unconventional means mentioned by Conan require the power of Toyama Tobi, so that Toyama Tobi can get the camera that Michiwaki Masahiko needs from Sonoko. Then give Michiwaki Masahiko the opportunity to act alone, so that Michiwaki Masahiko may take the risk of using the evidence in the camera to act on Toyama Tobi. In Conan's opinion, it is a perfect match for Toyama Tobi to do this kind of thing. As long as Michiwaki Masahiko is captured, when he attacks Toyama Tobi, there will be enough time for the police to investigate. After listening to Conan's plan, Toyama Tobi smacked his lips and said, "The direction of your plan is right, but there is one thing wrong." "Why is it wrong?" Conan humbly asked for advice. He knew that he was still far behind Toyama Tobi in this regard. Toyama Tobi was also happy to share his experience with Conan in this regard. "Look, the purpose of you coming to me to use unconventional means is to bring Michiwaki Masahiko to justice and make him confess. Regardless of whether this purpose is necessary, if it were me, I would probably take the opportunity of self-defense to kill this person directly. For me, this is a good way to solve the problem once and for all." After spending so much time with Toyama Tobi, Conan is now able to calmly deal with Toyama Tobi's talk about murder. At least the murders Toyama Tobi talked about were all criminals like Michiwaki Masahiko. Conan could only comfort himself in this way. After all, most of the time, people's bottom line is broken step by step. What can he do as a little detective who hides his identity because of the power of the organization? He can't even change back to his original appearance. Ahem. Conan coughed twice. Actually, there is no need to be so extreme, right? At this moment, Conan's thinking is unprecedentedly in line with most people in the organization. Yuan Shenfei nodded. Conan's reaction was already expected by him. To be honest, it is not ordinary to blacken the protagonist like Conan, who has lived a happy life since childhood and has never suffered any hardship in life. Even if we don't kill anyone, we can still do more. Toyama Tobi said, "I'm going to be a bait for Michiwaki Masahiko anyway, so why not do it all at once?" "Do it all at once? What do you mean?" "Look, according to your plan, my role is at most to increase the police's interrogation time, and the police are still the ones who are mainly responsible for the effort. If their interrogation goes smoothly, the effort is done by others, and you can at most have a relationship with them. But in the final analysis, you didn't help much. This kind of effort and reward are disproportionate." Toyama Tobi saw that Conan was about to say something and immediately stretched out his hand to stop him. "I know what you want to say. It's nothing more than solving cases is just your hobby. You didn't think so much at all. Just like when you were a high school detective, you accepted the commission, but didn't accept the commission fee. But you have to remember one thing, kid. You now want me to be a bait for Michiwaki Masahiko, which means that you want me to risk my life to be a bait for a serial killer. You can be noble and selfless, but I'm just a layman. I need to be paid. Can the benefits you get from this incident offset the benefits I want? Even if I helped you without saying anything, how do you know that I didn't tell your parents afterwards and let them pay my reward for you? So kid, you have to be thorough in doing things and do favors in a proper way. If it were me, I would subdue Michiwaki Masahiko when he attacked me and then torture him to get the evidence of his murder. The murder weapon, the bloody clothes, etc. I will hand him over to the police only after I get these." Toyama Tobi stared at Conan meaningfully. "After handing him over to the police, I will never tell anyone about this matter again, and this case will rot in my stomach. The credit belongs to the police, and I just fulfilled the obligations of a citizen." Conan was stunned because he found that Toyama Tobi's statement seemed to be similar to what his father did back then. This was the case when Conan was young. Policeman Kudo Yusaku was asked by Inspector Meijio to help, but those cases that Kudo Yusaku helped rarely appeared in newspapers. At most, Kudo Yusaku would tell them to Conan as enlightenment reading materials on weekdays. Conan had always thought that his father did this because Kudo Yusaku was a mystery novelist and did not need a reputation as a detective. But now that he thinks about it, it seems that it is not that simple. When he was still Kudo Shinichi, the detectives of the Metropolitan Police Department would give him some face whenever he arrived at a scene, especially Officer Meiji, who would calm down and listen to his reasoning as a high school student. He does not have a father who is the head of the police headquarters, so how can he be treated the same as Hattori Hiji? The fact that he can embark on the road of detective so smoothly is definitely inseparable from the good relationship that Kudo Yusaku has established in the Metropolitan Police Department in previous years. Conan even thinks that what Toyama Tobi said makes sense. Do you have a plan? Of course, this requires the cooperation of the detectives in Shizuoka Prefecture. Toyama Tobi patted Conan's head and then walked into the circle of detectives. Toyama Tobi told his plan to Yokomizo Sango and Sato, and immediately got everyone's approval. Takagi, Sato, and Yokomizo Sango of Shizuoka Prefecture all have a general understanding of Toyama Tobi's fighting power. In any case, Daoki Masahiko will never be Toyama Tobi's opponent. But no matter how much he agrees, Sato can't help but worry about Toyama Tobi. Don't worry, Officer Sato, I'm confident that I will win. Toyama Tobi supported his waist implicitly, and Sato understood instantly. Toyama Tobi is carrying a gun at this time. Officer Yokomizo, then we will trouble you and your subordinates to go with us later. Don't worry, Mr. Toyama. I have no choice but to do it. Yokomizo Sango nodded vigorously, as if he could feel the happiness of Tokyo Officer Meiji again this time. When the body in the forest was pulled away, the onlookers also dispersed one after another. Toyama Tobi and his group prepared to return to the restaurant. Yokomizo and Shizuoka Prefecture detectives followed behind them. As soon as Toyama Tobi returned to the restaurant, he heard Sanako's complaints. Where the hell have you been? We've been waiting for a long time. Sorry, I just went out to watch the fun for a while. By the way, Sanako, can you lend me your camera? Chapter 322. The mere sand and gravel are not half as good as me. Here, take it. Sanako just handed over the camera and then suddenly grabbed Toyama Tobi's wrist. I told you not to peek at the photos inside. Don't worry, am I that kind of person? Toyama Tobi laughed and put the camera in his hand away. Then he glanced at the side and saw Michiwaki Masahiko's two little thief eyes rolling around. By the way, there is one more thing. Toyama Tobi clapped his hands and let Yokomizo Sango and the Shizuoka Prefecture detective behind him come out. This is Officer Yokomizo from the Shizuoka Prefecture Police Headquarters. He came to ask Mr. Michiwaki to assist in the investigation. Toyama Tobi stared at Michiwaki Masahiko suspiciously. Mr. Michiwaki, you haven't done anything bad, have you? Toyama Tobi's words surprised everyone, and even Sanako subconsciously began to stay away from Michiwaki Masahiko. Michiwaki Masahiko saw this and immediately explained. How is it possible? Maybe there is some misunderstanding. As long as I explain it clearly to the police officer, there will be no problem. Mr. Michiwaki, we would like to ask you to go back and investigate the murder case that happened near here last night. Last night, murder case. Sanako and Zyadalan were shocked. That's right, Zyadalan sister. The murder happened on the small road we took to return to the hotel last night. Doesn't that mean? Yes, we may have passed by the murderer last night. Toyama Tobi weighed the camera in his hand thoughtfully, and this scene happened to be seen by Michiwaki Masahiko. Michiwaki Masahiko was anxious because he didn't know whether the flash of light in the small road last night was an electric spark or the flash of Sanako's camera. He couldn't wait to get the camera in Toyama Tobi's hand, but he couldn't do it. He had to cooperate with the investigation of the Shizuoka Prefecture detective. Michiwaki Masahiko was familiar with cooperating with the police investigation. He knew very well that the Shizuoka Prefecture detective had absolutely no evidence of his murder. Although he didn't know why the Shizuoka detective suspected him, they couldn't do anything to him without evidence. So the only variable at the moment was whether Toyama Tobi, who had taken Sanako's camera, would follow Sanako's instructions and not look at the photos inside. Michiwaki Masahiko also made a secret decision in his heart that when he left the police station, the first thing he would do when he came back was to take the camera from Toyama Tobi. Michiwaki Masahiko really didn't think Toyama Tobi was anything special. Since he had killed someone, his mental state had indeed been gradually changing. No matter how tall or strong Toyama Tobi was, he thought he could kill Toyama Tobi in a sneak attack. Michiwaki Masahiko was taken to a nearby police station by Yokomizo Sango, but the high-pressure interrogation he imagined did not come. What awaited him was a very ordinary police interrogation. For example, he was asked if he knew the deceased, what his relationship with the deceased was, and his whereabouts throughout the day yesterday. Michiwaki Masahiko had already prepared for these questions. He knew that in a place like Aizu where there were so many people and eyes, lying was obviously the worst choice. That is to say, he could not hide anything from the police. For example, in the first question, he answered that he knew her, but he had just met her. In the second question, he answered that they were just acquaintances who had a good chat, and they were not even friends. As for the third question, Michiwaki Masahiko said that he had indeed stayed with the girl yesterday and even had dinner with her. But in the evening, the girl went back to the hotel by herself. Facing Yokomizo Sango's questioning, Michiwaki Masahiko spread his hands and looked like a playboy. Please, officer, we are all adults. After dinner, I invited her to sit down and have a drink together, but she refused. Then of course I have to find a girl who can spend the night with me before it's too late. This sounds reasonable, but it is quite immoral. But considering that such things usually require mutual consent from both parties, even if Yokomizo Sango is a policeman, there is no room for comment. After a set of procedures, it was already evening. Yokomizo Sango also closed the notebook in his hand and completely announced that the questioning of Michiwaki Masahiko was completed. Okay, Mr. Michiwaki, thank you for your cooperation with us. You can leave now. Yokomizo Sango watched Michiwaki Masahiko leave the police station with a droopy face. After Michiwaki Masahiko was completely far away, Yokomizo Sango put away the expression on his face and stared at the direction where Michiwaki Masahiko left. I hope everything goes well over there in Toyama. In the evening, in front of the Wano Hotel, Sonoko was undoubtedly very happy to see Michiwaki Masahiko coming back. Being taken away by the police for investigation and being able to come back so quickly, doesn't that mean that Michiwaki himself has no problems? Among the 7 people who came to Aizu Beach together this time, only Sonoko, Xiaolan and Mizuno Rina are not sure what is going on with Michiwaki Masahiko. But Toyama Tobi's text message made Mizuno Rina realize that Michiwaki Masahiko has a problem, so the only 2 people who are really defenseless against Michiwaki Masahiko and happy for him are probably Sonoko and Xiaolan. Look, I said it was a misunderstanding. Michiwaki Masahiko smiled and tried to take advantage of the situation. Sonoko did not criticize the police from Michiwaki Masahiko's perspective, but just kept saying that everything was fine. After chatting with Sonoko for a while, Michiwaki Masahiko asked Sonoko and the other 2 to have dinner together, and Michiwaki Masahiko accidentally asked about Sonoko's other friends. Without waiting for Sonoko to answer, Mizuno Rina said first, Ms. Sato and Mr. Takagi went on a date. Toyama went to meet a friend in Shizuoka Prefecture and took Conan to dinner. Now there are only 3 of us left. Is that so? Michiwaki Masahiko was secretly delighted. If Toyama Tobi went to meet a friend, it meant that he would not bring a camera with him. That is to say, the camera is likely to be in Toyama Tobi's room. The room they lived in was clearly known by Michiwaki Masahiko during the day when he was chatting with Sonoko. At this time, Michiwaki Masahiko suddenly covered his lower abdomen with a look of unbearable pain. Sorry, Sonoko, I suddenly have a stomachache. I think it's because I use too much air conditioning in the police station. Please wait for me for a moment. I'll be back soon. Michiwaki Masahiko's excuse was good. If he had any other excuse, Sonoko might have followed him, but for such a private matter as a stomachache, Sonoko and the others would definitely be embarrassed to follow him. Michiwaki Masahiko walked into the hotel quickly, and the black-skinned guy at the front desk was replaced by an old man. Michiwaki Masahiko was calm, as if he was a guest of the hotel. When he arrived at the hotel, Michiwaki Masahiko made a special observation and found that the room of Toyama Tobi that Sonoko mentioned was indeed off. This also meant that there was no one in the room. When he arrived at the door of the room, he put his ear against the door, and there was indeed no movement in the room. Michiwaki Masahiko smiled slightly, took out the lock-picking tools, and began to tinker with the door lock of Toyama Tobi's room. A mere gravel is not as good as me. At the same time, several pairs of eyes in the dark room were staring at the door. Chapter 323. Here I come, brother. There was silence in Toyama Tobi's room, the windows were tightly closed, and there was no other noise outside the window, except the sound of the rain. Tilehausen is a hotel, and I think everyone knows the soundproofing effect of the hotel. It cannot be said that it is completely soundproof, but no matter what is happening outside the door or next door, as long as it is not so noisy outside the hotel, you can almost hear it clearly in the room. Although Tilehausen has various shortcomings, it also has very outstanding advantages. That is, as a hotel located near a popular tourist attraction, the area of its rooms is not cramped. This also allows Toyama Tobi and others to find a suitable position in the room to wait for Michiwaki Masahiko to come. Toyama Tobi, Sato, Takagi, Kyagoku Makoto, and Conan, who stood at the far end of the room and stared at the door with sympathy, formed a team to capture Michiwaki Masahiko. To be honest, Conan has never fought such a rich battle in his life. Needless to say, Toyama Tobi's fighting techniques, which come from the organization, are aimed at the vital points of the people, and there is no martial ethics at all. If you are not careful, you will lose everything. In addition, the number of gangsters who fell into his hands is unknown. Chunchin is a 1-meter flower murderer. Officer Sato's judo level is also unique. 3 or 5 strong men can't make Officer Sato sweat. Not to mention that Officer Sato's judo has been tested in actual combat, and there is no water in it. Then there is Takagi, the arrest expert of the Metropolitan Police Department. He learned karate from the karate club of Bido High School, and is extremely proficient. In terms of fighting level alone, Takagi is even a step ahead of Sato. The most important thing is that Takagi can resist beatings. Kyagoku Makoto spent a lot of effort to give Officer Takagi special training. If you want to learn how to beat people, you must first learn to be beaten. As long as the ability to resist blows is strong enough, even if he falls into a disadvantage for a while, Takagi can find an opportunity to fight back. Kyagoku Makoto's special training was also very effective. Takagi had been beaten by Kyagoku Makoto all the time. When he finished his special training and started to participate in the operations of the first investigation, he was surprised to find that the group of criminals who resisted with bare hands could not even break his defense. How did that saying go? How could a man who had been beaten by an eagle be afraid of the light pecks of a pheasant? Kyagoku Makoto is even more so. The so-called kick-hitting nobleman is all nonsense. Just look at him being stabbed in the arm, and then calmly pulling it out after intense exercise without bleeding, which can almost tell what level of fighter he is. Before crossing over, Toyama Tobi always believed that the knife that Kyagoku Makoto was stabbed in the woods was definitely intentional. Otherwise, according to the fact that this guy was able to dismantle 2 concrete pillars with his bare hands and use the concrete pillars as a seesaw to play flying, how could a bastard like Masahiko Daiki stab his arm so easily? This boy with thick eyebrows and big eyes is not so stubborn. With such a professional team, what else can Conan worry about? He was just worried that these people would not hit too hard, or they would be beaten to death by Michiwaki Masahiko by accident. After receiving the call from Yokomizo Chango, everyone turned off the lights and waited quietly in the room for Michiwaki Masahiko to arrive. Finally, the noise coming from the door made everyone clearly hear that Michiwaki Masahiko was trying to get into the room. Kyagoku Masahiko's face was extremely dark. What Michiwaki Masahiko did was almost like slapping him in the face. This hotel is owned by their family. Yuanshin Tobi heard the noise and grinned. He thought Michiwaki Masahiko's movements were not smooth enough, so he was ready to help him. To open a lock properly, you need to go through professional learning. Most people who want to open the door with a lock-picking tool will probably need to try their luck. Yuanshin Tobi gently held the handle, and while Michiwaki Masahiko was concentrating on opening the door, he quickly opened the door. Facing Michiwaki Masahiko's confused expression, he grabbed Michiwaki Masahiko by the collar and said, "Come in." After Michiwaki Masahiko was thrown into the room, Kyagoku Makoto immediately blocked his mouth with a towel. This was arranged by Toyama Tobi. At this time, they couldn't ask Michiwiki Masahiko right away, otherwise Michiwiki Masahiko would know their purpose and resist stubbornly with a fluke mentality. With Sato and Takagi present, Toyama Tobi couldn't use many of his methods. If Michiwiki Masahiko didn't cooperate, it would really take some effort. Sato and Takagi might be a hindrance to Toyama Tobi, but they were a source of stimulation for Kyogoku Makoto. In his limited 17 years of life, he really had never done such a thing in front of the police. After blocking Michiwiki Masahiko's mouth, Kyogoku Makoto began his action. He could beat him up in front of the two detectives. Kyogoku Makoto was very measured in his actions, and he chose places where it was not easy to detect scars. Even if Michiwiki Masahiko reported Kyogoku Makoto afterwards, Toyama Tobi had something to say. As an innocent citizen, he was afraid that a serial murder suspect like Michiwiki Masahiko would come to his house for revenge. So isn't it reasonable for him to ask his friends to come to his room to give him courage? It was really unreasonable for you, Michiwiki Masahiko, to appear in Toyama Tobi's room. Soon, the pain that continued, but penetrated deep into his bones, began to make Michiwiki Masahiko drowsy. He still couldn't understand why he was beaten like this when he was here to destroy the evidence. After realizing that it was almost in place, Kyogoku Makoto helped Toyama Tobi tie up Michiwiki Masahiko. Sato and Takagi didn't intervene throughout the process. As criminal police, they really didn't need to intervene at this time. And no one would tell anyone about this tonight. As long as someone asked, the people who came were dating in a secluded place. Anyway, Toyama Tobi and Kyogoku Makoto had never seen them. If Michiwiki Masahiko wanted to report, who would believe the words of a murderer? After Michiwiki Masahiko was tied up, Toyama Tobi took the towel out of his mouth and covered Michiwiki Masahiko's face. Even if you haven't eaten pork, you have seen pigs run. As soon as Michiwiki Masahiko saw this action, he knew what he would face next. Waterboarding is a form of torture. It specifically refers to a method of interrogation that makes the prisoner feel suffocated through various means. It tests the prisoner's psychological endurance. A method of interrogation that makes the prisoner feel suffocated through various means. It tests the prisoner's psychological endurance. Waterboarding is the quickest method of interrogation. According to official CIA data, people who suffer waterboarding will generally confess within 16 seconds to 2 minutes. The most common waterboard is to cover the prisoner's face with a wet towel, soaked in water to make him feel suffocated, just like what Toyama Tobi is doing now. Without giving Michiwiki Masahiko a chance to speak, the well-prepared Toyama Tobi poured the prepared water directly on the towel on Michiwiki Masahiko's face. Chapter 324 Conan, I will definitely kill you. After the first round of water torture, Toyama Tobi lifted the towel from Michiwiki Masahiko's face. Seeing Michiwiki Masahiko greedily, gulping, coughing and breathing air, he smiled sweetly. Without waiting for Michiwiki Masahiko to recover completely, Toyama Tobi put the wet towel on Michiwiki Masahiko's face and prepared to start the second round. The wet touch of the towel finally gave Michiwiki Masahiko great courage. He screamed at Toyama Tobi, even if it made him more painful, "Please, stop it. I agree to whatever you say. Please let me live." The water torture just now really made Michiwiki Masahiko feel the fear of death. Although this guy kills without blinking an eye, he is not an ordinary coward when facing death. Toyama Tobi did not take off the wet towel from Michiwiki Masahiko's face, but asked Sato and Takagi in a puzzled manner, "Doesn't this guy know what we want to do? He should not know. After all, we didn't tell him, right?" Takagi kindly reminded. Toyama Tobi nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed, it seems that we didn't ask anything." A small spark of hope just ignited in Michiwiki Masahiko's heart, but it was extinguished by Toyama Tobi. "Forget it, I guess this bastard won't say anything, even if I ask him. It's better to kill a serial killer like him directly. Of course, he must feel the pain before he dies, and he must know how many floors he has to carry a bag of rice to. Oh no, this is the rice flour vigilante, the dark Batman." Michiwiki Masahiko is afraid of death, and the pain of death, and he is even more afraid of dying after the pain. What Toyama Tobi has done since he entered the door is completely in line with his words. He really just wants to torture himself severely and then kill himself. Such behavior is not even as simple as touching Michiwaki Masahiko's soft spot. He directly pierced Michiwaki Masahiko, or pierced back and forth, repeatedly. Michiwaki Masahiko suddenly realized that they were going to avenge the brown-haired girl who died at his hands. But revenge doesn't necessarily mean killing him. Michiwaki Masahiko felt that Toyama Tobi was a bit extreme. In a hurry, Michiwaki Masahiko instinctively chose the lesser of two evils. Fortunately, he had kept the dagger used in the crime. Otherwise, even if he said he wanted to turn himself in now, it would probably be unconvincing. I admit it. I killed those girls. I have evidence. My dagger is in the box in the hotel. I don't have to turn myself in. You can report me. Really, you can report me after you get the murder weapon. There's no reason to dirty your hands for me. Michiwaki Masahiko tried hard to convince Toyama Tobi. The reason why he admitted his crime so readily and even took the initiative to provide the evidence against him in his hands was very simple. Death penalty is rarely imposed in Japan, and it is unknown how long it will take for death row inmates to be executed. Compared to dying painfully at the hands of Toyama Tobi now, Michiwaki Masahiko felt that he could still fight for that slim hope. Takagi, do you think he is serious if he agreed so readily? Toyama Tobi stopped watering, but did not remove the wet towel. Why do I feel that this guy's playing tricks again? Well, I also think it is a little unreliable, but why not find someone to verify it first? As soon as Takagi finished speaking, Michiwaki Masahiko nodded frantically. He remembered this voice. This is a good person. Toyama Tobi called Yakogo. Yakogo, who had been prepared, brought people directly to the hotel where Michiwaki Masahiko was staying. After entering the door, he went straight to Michiwaki Masahiko's suitcase and indeed found the dagger used as the murder weapon in an inconspicuous interlayer of the suitcase. After receiving Yakogo's affirmative response, Toyama Tobi pulled off the towel on Michiwaki Masahiko's face and asked Kyagoki Makoto to help turn on the light, and he seemed a little distressed. You said you are so cooperative. I really can't kill you for a while. You are so decisive. You won't come to retaliate against us just because you get out of prison by chance. Don't say it. Don't say it. At the moment when the wet towel on his face was pulled off, Michiwaki Masahiko's mind really flashed such a thought. A gentleman's revenge is never too late, and he, Michiwaki Masahiko, can't be called a gentleman, so he will definitely take revenge when he has the chance in the future. Of course, as a scum, Michiwaki Masahiko obviously didn't dare to take revenge directly on Toyama Tobi. But after so many years, Toyama Tobi will always have children and family, right? For a middle-aged man, the destruction of the family and the death of his family are the greatest torture for him. Facing Toyama Tobi's doubts, Michiwaki Masahiko shook his head frantically to deny it. Toyama Tobi knew at a glance that he was talking about Michiwaki Masahiko's dark thoughts. Interesting, he is really not the protagonist of the world. This villain has been tortured like this, and he still wants to take revenge. Toyama Tobi suddenly cast a sympathetic look at Michiwaki Masahiko. He is sympathizing with me? He wants to kill me? Exclamation mark. This guy doesn't follow the rules. It's said that surrendering will lose half. Before Michiwaki Masahiko could speak, the door was knocked again. Kyagoki Makoto opened the door and found that the three women who were originally downstairs came to the door of the room hand in hand. They found that the lights in the room were on at the door of the hotel. They were afraid that thieves would come in, so they went up to check. When they looked up, they saw that Michiwaki Masahiko, who had left because of a stomachache, was tied up and placed on the table. The whole person was no longer embarrassed, it was simply horrible. Sonoko's brain was a little out of order for a while, pointing at Michiwaki Masahiko on the table and looking at Toyama Tobi. Brother Toyama, what is this? Toyama Tobi found a clean towel to wipe the water off his hands and said easily, this is the murderer who killed 4 brown-haired women in succession. He just confessed his crime. He found you because he mistook the electric spark for a flash. When we passed by that day, he mistakenly thought you took a picture of his crime scene and he was going to kill to silence you. I didn't. Michiwiki Masahiko wanted to quibble. He didn't want to be charged with attempted murder with 4 lives on his shoulders. This charge is just like stacking buffs. The more you have, the faster you die. Toyama Tobi slapped Michiwiki Masahiko in the face and knocked out 2 of his teeth. Since when did it become his turn as a little punk to interrupt Master Spiritus? Sonoko collapsed upon hearing this, but the reason for her collapse was very strange. She finally had a man who came to chat her up, but it turned out that his purpose in chatting her up was to kill her. Who could accept this? Just when Sonoko was about to die of shame and indignation, she suddenly heard a deafening voice. Impossible. It's impossible for someone to be interested in Sonoko. This man must have some unknown problems. Hehe. Sonoko suddenly laughed, but there was an unknown amount of distortion in her smile. Conan, I must kill you. Chapter 325. I killed me? The atmosphere in the room began to become ridiculous because of Sonoko's appearance. In such a serious occasion, Sonoko chased Conan all over the room. Conan also learned the kinwang around the pillar without a teacher and fled around the pillars in the room one by one. Just as Sato was struggling whether to stop this ridiculous chase, Conan suddenly felt his feet empty. It was not that he fell, but that he was lifted up by Kyagoki Makoto. Conan looked at Kyagoki Makoto in panic. It was bad. This man with thick eyebrows and big eyes turned out to be a traitor in the team. Just as Conan was about to shout that his life was over, Conan was put on the other side, and Kyagoki Makoto faced Sonoko, who rushed over and braked suddenly. That's Sonoko. Actually, I have something to say to you. Kyagoki Makoto was still thin-skinned and didn't dare to express his feelings in public. Sonoko was still frightened by Michiwiki Masahiko's incident, although she was very happy that Kyagoki Makoto confessed to her at this time. Sonoko thought it would be better to wait a little longer if she accepted it. The most important thing is that the lack of the shock of the hero saving the beauty and the self-torture scheme made Sonoko's whole thinking clearer. Of course, Michiwiki Masahiko did not bring no positive influence to Sonoko. For example, Sonoko suddenly felt that the type of pretty boy she liked before was not very reliable. A masculine boy like Kyagoki Makoto seemed very handsome. How to say it? Everyone has a bright future when the evidence of Michiwiki Masahiko's murder was obtained by the Shizuoka Prefecture Police. Yakumizo Sango took people to bring Michiwiki Masahiko back to the police station. Michiwiki Masahiko was indeed unwilling to give up. Although the crime of murder was already a foregone conclusion, he still wanted to drag a few people into the water. He remembered the names of Toyama Tobi, Takagi Wataru, Sato Miwako, and Kyagoki Makoto firmly in his mind. The first thing he did when he arrived at the police station was to ask for a physical examination, but after discovering that Yakumizo Sango seemed to be in cahoots with these people, he changed his target angle. If Toyama Tobi and Kyagoku were really protected by Yakumizo Sango, it wouldn't be that the other man and woman would be in trouble too, right? Don't say that the two of them were just standing by and watching. Isn't it more hateful for people to sit back and watch the crime happen? He immediately entrusted his lawyer to investigate Sato and Takaji's responsibility again, and then he met Sato and Takagi in the interrogation room. It's just that the way he met them was a little different from what he expected. Sato and Takagi were sitting opposite him openly, and before that, Yakumizo Sango and his colleagues had been sitting in this seat. Takagi opposite him frowned and looked serious, but Sato showed a kind smile and asked Michiwiki Masahiko, "Mr. Michiwiki, I heard that you were looking for us? I haven't introduced myself to me yet. I'm Sato, a detective in the 1st Investigation Division of the Metropolitan Police Department. Next to me is my colleague Takagi, also a detective in the 1st Investigation Division. Now you can say whatever you want to say, and we will record it truthfully." Michiwiki Masahiko's eyes went dark. People were sitting opposite him, and he didn't know that he was brushed by this group of police. He still wants to hold these two people responsible. It would be great if they didn't kill him when he got in. Michiwiki Masahiko finally regretted it. He was impulsive. Damn, too impulsive. This lawyer really can't find a cheap one. As a lawyer, shouldn't you remind your employer when you encounter such a thing? Why do you do whatever I say? Exclamation mark. Is this how your professionalism is reflected? Michiwiki Masahiko was silent. He didn't want to say anything. He just wanted a time machine to travel back to the past. Seeing that Michiwiki Masahiko didn't mean to talk, Sato and Takagi didn't stay in the interrogation room for long. Takagi stopped before leaving the interrogation room, turned around and said to Michiwiki Masahiko seriously, "By the way, Toyama asked me to bring you a message. The brown-haired girl you are targeting is called Suzuki Sonoko. Her Suzuki is Suzuki from the Suzuki group." After that, Takagi left the Shizuoka Prefectural Police headquarters without paying attention to Michiwiki Masahiko, who was stunned. Michiwiki Masahiko was stunned, and Michiwiki Masahiko was disheartened. The words that Yuan Shinfei brought to Michiwiki Masahiko truly sealed the door to his survival. Michiwiki Masahiko only realized, now that he had sent himself to the guillotine. Suzuki Sonoko is a member of the Suzuki group. What does this mean? This means that Michiwiki Masahiko's existence is a threat to Suzuki Sonoko. Since it is a threat, he must be eliminated as a threat. The Suzuki group does not even need to do anything, just urge the court to give him a fair sentence, and then urge the government leaders to execute him in a timely manner. The Suzuki group does not even need to let those who do shady work to do it, and just cut off his threat openly. Who is to blame for all this? He can only blame himself, because he provided the evidence to the police. He offended the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, Chiba Prefectural Police Headquarters, and Shizuoka Prefectural Police Headquarters at the same time, and he was very sure that his days before his death would never be easy. Faced with such a situation, Michiwiki Masahiko could only roar helplessly and shed tears of regret. He never regretted killing people. He just regretted that, if he had known the punishment would be so severe, why didn't he be more careful at the beginning? For such a scum, his confession is useless, and sending him to the underworld to suffer is the most appropriate thing to do. Punish the past and prevent the future. Cure the disease and save people. The premise is that the person is worth saving and has value to be saved. A terminally ill patient, no doctor can say that he can save a person. In this way, the surprise-filled Izu trip came to an end for the time being, and everyone went their separate ways. After returning to Tokyo, Toyama Tobi looked at the smile on Sonoko's face and knew that she and Kyogoki Makoto had established a pretty good start. After sending Sonoko away, Toyama Tobi was also ready to start working. Mizuno Rina had already submitted her letter of surrender, so he had to give her some benefits to let her know that he was not the kind of person who got things for free. Toyama Tobi and Mizuno Rina, who separated from everyone, did not go to the hotel where Toyama Tobi stayed, or Mizuno Rina's rental house. Led by Rina Mizunoshi, they came to a safe house set up by Rina Mizunoshi herself. No one knew about this safe house, including the CIA infiltration team. After a thorough inspection of the safe house, the two sat down to talk. Although I have information about Vermouth, I can't give it to you for the time being. I was the one who picked up Vermouth at the airport, and if anything happens to her, I will definitely be suspected. But I can provide you with another target. Toyama Tobi said straight to the point. Who is it? Pisco, a veteran of the organization, even older than Rum and Gin. He is now in a semi-retired state. If you can really take him down, the information about the organization in his hands is definitely what you dream of. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.